Chapter 83. Giving benefits to the clan but breaking the rules would cause the clan's people to be unstable, which could cause more harm than good to the clan. In addition to Wang Shi's persuasion, Wang Daoyuan bowed and said, "Grandson understands. Then this share will be transferred to Daoyin. This kid's appetite is too big. The amount of spirit grains allocated by the clan is not enough for him to eat. I promised my parents to take good care of him. I can't let him starve." Wang Xian did not refuse this time. "Since you want to transfer it, then there's no problem. The share is yours. How you deal with it is your right. The value of the 2 jade slips you handed over is very high. Later I'll reward you with 2,000 clan contribution points. Alright, does this cave in Spirit Spring have a name? I'm dealing with an evil cultivator. I'm not in the mood to ask him these questions. This cave doesn't have a signboard or anything like that. Just pretend it doesn't have a name. Since the clan head is here, then please name it." Wang Daoyuan replied. Wang Xian smiled. "Then I'll be impolite. The most valuable thing in this cave is this spirit spring. Let's call it the Spirit Spring Cave. As for the name of this spirit spring, since the spirit spring gave birth to the unique spirit plant Jade Butterfly Orchid, then let's call it the Jade Butterfly Spring." Wang Daoyuan naturally had no objection. Wang Xian continued, "This cave will be left to you to manage. Don't let anyone know that you're guarding the cave. Just right, this place is rich in water spirit energy. You also cultivate a water attribute cultivation method. It's not bad to cultivate here. Let's leave the matter of the Spirit Spring Cave like this. You go and pass a message to the rogue cultivator from the Green Willow province. I want to see his master. The meeting place will be at the north bank of the Clear Stream, the border between the Sky Beheading Mountain Range and our Wang clan's territory. The time will be set by them, but it's best to arrange it within 2 months. Before the meeting, Shui and I will wait in this cave." Wang Daoyuan gave the spirit pearl that controlled the formation to the clan head and said, "Since the cave is called the Spirit Spring Cave, then this spirit pearl should also be called the Spirit Spring Pearl. Although this Spirit Spring Pearl doesn't recognize its master and can't control the formation, it can control the opening and closing of the door. Take it first, then I'll go and contact Qin Liang." Wang Xian took the Spirit Spring Pearl, nodded and said, "Go." Wang Daoyuan left the Spirit Spring Cavern abode. In order to deceive others, he changed into a disguise and changed his appearance. He used the breath-concealing technique to hide his cultivation level to the 2nd level of Qi disciple before heading to the Mirror Iron Mountain. After meeting his 8th uncle Wang Daoyuan Wang Shoujiang, he asked him to help find Qin Liang. Qin Liang arrived at Wang Daoyuan's cave residence. Wang Daoyuan said to Wang Shoujiang, "8th uncle, this matter is top secret. The clan leader has ordered that no one who is not involved in this matter is to be revealed. 8th uncle, please leave." Although Wang Shoujiang did things hastily, he was still able to see the big picture. After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, he wasn't the slightest bit dissatisfied. Instead, he didn't say anything further and directly left the abode. Wang Daoyuan said to Qin Liang, "I have already reported your master's intention to do business with my Wang family to the clan head. The clan head's intention is that this matter is of great importance, and it is inevitable that the news will be leaked through word transmission. The clan head will discuss with your master whether or not to cooperate and how to cooperate. The location of the meeting will be on the north bank of the Clear Stream, at the border between the Sky Beheading Mountain Range and my Wang family's territory. The specific time can be arranged by your master, but it would be best if it is within 2 months. I wonder if you have any objections?" After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Qin Liang knew that his mission was completed. He was very happy and hurriedly said, "I am just a servant, how would I dare to have any objections? I will return to the oasis and report to my master the clan head's intentions. After my master has made his decision, he will definitely send someone to inform me." Wang Daoyuan added, "I will say the ugly words first. If there is no news within 2 months, then this matter will be dropped. In addition, if the news is leaked, my Wang family will definitely not admit that we are cooperating with the oasis. Also, if I find out that you are playing tricks at the meeting location, I will not attend. At that time, don't say that my Wang family is not keeping its promises." Qin Liang was silent for a while, then said, "Daoyu's words, I will definitely report it to my master without changing a word. As for my master's decision, that is not something I can guess. If you don't have anything else to say, I will take my leave." Wang Daoyuan smiled. I won't see you out. After sending Qin Liang off, he did not return to the spiritual spring cavern, but stayed at Mirror Iron Mountain to cultivate. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Liang once again came to Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Daoyuan saw Qin Liang and asked, "How did your master decide?" Qin Liang clasped his hands. "My master ordered me to tell the clan head that he has accepted the Wang family's invitation and conditions. In 20 days he will meet at the place chosen by the clan head. This is not only my master's intention, but also the intention of all the foundation establishment cultivators of the oasis." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. He had always thought that Qin Liang's master only wanted to do business with the Wang family and strengthen his own strength. He did not expect that this was the intention of all the upper echelons of the oasis. It seemed that the oasis was truly lacking in resources. The Wang family's partner was not just Qin Liang's master, but the entire oasis. The Wang family's business with the oasis was much better. They did not need to worry about the internal conflicts of the oasis and other foundation establishment cultivators interfering. He understood Qin Liang's meaning. "I will report this to the clan head. I ask that Dao Yu stay at Mirror Iron Mountain for a few days. If the clan head has any request, he can let Dao Yu pass on the message." Wang Daoyuan left Mirror Iron Mountain and circled around before using the Earth Escape Talisman to return to the Spiritual Spring Cavern. When the restriction of the Spiritual Spring Cavern was closed, he did not need the Spiritual Spring Pearl to pass through the stone wall. If the restriction was opened, anyone who dared to use the Earth Escape technique to enter the Spiritual Spring Cavern would be attacked. After returning to the Spiritual Spring Cavern, he reported Qin Liang's message and his own judgment to the clan head. The clan head did not have any new instructions. He also volunteered to scout the location of the meeting to prevent an ambush. Although there was no conflict of interest between the oasis and the Wang family, and the probability of killing the clan head was not high, it was not completely impossible. For example, someone could pay a large enough price to ask the people of the oasis to set up a trap. Although the clan head was not the only foundation establishment cultivator of the Wang family, he was the true pillar of the Wang family. If the clan head was killed, even if the Wang family did not collapse, it would suffer a heavy blow. To prevent this from happening, after Wang Daoyuan reported the news to Qin Liang and saw him off, he immediately headed for the meeting location. Mirror Iron Mountain was only a few hundred li away from the periphery of the Heaven/Mountain range. He did not dare to travel openly, so he could only travel stealthily. It took him more than a day to reach the vicinity of the meeting location. He had lived on the Jade Spring Peak since he was young, so he had seen the world in terms of spirit veins. However, when he reached the periphery of the Heaven/Mountain range, he was shocked. Looking into the Heaven/Mountain range, he saw a group of towering mountains shrouded in mist. Within the mist, he could faintly hear the roars of tigers, the cries of apes, the cries of phoenixes and cranes. On the nearby mountain peak, there were strange pines and strange rocks everywhere, with clear streams flowing to the left and right. Rare and exotic beasts were faintly discernible, and exotic flowers and herbs were everywhere. It was a scene of immortals. Even if there were no spirit veins here, the concentration of spirit qi was close to the spiritual spring cavern. Chapter 84. Heavenly/Mountain Range is worthy of being Beiyuan Zhou Xian's main spirit vein. Even the border several thousand miles away from the main vein has such high spirit energy density. What kind of scenery would the main vein be like? Wang Daoyuan exclaimed. He advanced along the border and used his divine sense to investigate the Heavenly/Mountain Range. But after advancing 40 to 50 miles, he discovered 5 to 6 Tier 1 spirit veins. Among them, there were even 2 that had just formed the embryonic form of spirit veins. The spirit energy at the location of these spirit veins was extremely dense. It was not impossible for them to grow into Tier 2 spirit veins in the future. Of course, regarding the main vein, Wang Daoyuan was only thinking about it. Even if he had 100 guts, he would not dare to enter the Heavenly/Mountain Range's main vein. Legend had it that there were countless high-level demonic beasts there. Golden core cultivators might not be able to come out after entering, let alone he was just a qi refinement cultivator. It was impossible to enter the main vein, but searching around the periphery was still pretty good. He released over 50 soul-chasing bees and gave them orders through the Bee King to search for spiritual items in the nearby 100 miles. After an hour, according to the soul-chasing bees' flying speed, They could make a few round trips within the 100 miles. However, out of the 50 or so soul-chasing bees that were released, only 10 or so returned. Looks like this heavenly/mountain range's periphery is also full of danger. Although the soul-chasing bees were only low-grade tier 1 and were not strong, their flying speed was extremely fast. To be able to keep the soul-chasing bees, either they had special abilities or their cultivation was not low. If he personally went to investigate, it would absolutely be a dead end. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that as long as he released the bee swarm in the periphery of the heavenly/mountain range, he would be like a radar that detected spirit plants and spirit beasts. All the spiritual items within a radius of 1,000 miles would be under his control. Looking at it now, he still thought too simply of the heavenly/mountain range. This was just near the periphery, and the soul-chasing bees' losses exceeded 80%. If they were to enter a few hundred miles deep into the heavenly/mountain range, probably none of the soul-chasing bees would be able to come out alive. There might even be high-level demonic beasts following the soul-chasing bees and killing him. Wang Daoyuan understood the situation from these dozen over surviving soul-chasing bees through the Bee King and determined the danger of various places. Although the soul-chasing bee had already become a spiritual insect, its intelligence was still not enough. It could only briefly describe what it saw. One of the bees described. There was a pile of purple spiritual herbs with abundant spiritual energy. Beside them was a demonic beast with long ears. The demonic beast's body was about the same size as its beehive. According to the description of this long-tailed wasp, that cluster of purple spirit herbs was most likely a second-tier spirit herb. It had long ears and its body was about the size of a beehive. It was most likely a rabbit demonic beast. The rabbit-type demonic beasts were very timid. When they encountered an enemy, they would quickly run away. If they were not chased into a corner, they would not attack. In the past, Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to raise herbivorous spirit beasts. He only dared to raise spirit fish, mainly because he was afraid that they would harm the spirit plants in the space. Now that he had a clone to take care of the spirit orb, he no longer had to worry about this. He could catch a few rabbit demonic beasts and raise them in the space. He could also make full use of the spiritual rice straws in the space. In addition, rabbits reproduce quickly. In the future, Wang Daoyuan would not lack meat. After he raised a group of rabbits, he could give a few to the family. It would also be an additional ingredient for the drunken Immortal restaurant. He ordered the soul-chasing bee to lead the way in front while he used the breath-concealing technique to follow behind. After all, they were in the periphery of the sky-beheading mountain range. Any demonic beast that jumped out could easily tear him apart. The soul-chasing bee could safely pass through the place, but it didn't mean that he could also pass through it safely. The soul-chasing bee's cultivation was low, its body was small and it could fly quickly. Most demonic beasts were not interested in it. However, Wang Daoyuan was different. To demonic beasts, his spiritual energy was higher. He could eat a lot and he couldn't fly. He was an excellent food. Therefore, every time he came to a place with lush vegetation, he would use his divine sense to scan the surroundings to prevent poisonous snakes and insects hidden in the vegetation from attacking him when he passed by. Caution was the parent of safety. Relying on caution, Wang Daoyuan followed the soul-chasing bee for more than 20 kilometers and avoided the ambush of 3 waves of poisonous snakes and insects. Because he used the breath-concealing technique, as long as he didn't get too close to the demonic beasts, he wouldn't be discovered. In addition, his route was always near the periphery of the sky-beheading mountain range. There were very few rank 2 demonic beasts, and he deliberately avoided the demonic beasts' nests. Along the way he was scared but not in danger. Soon Wang Daoyuan arrived at the area where the soul-chasing bee found the purple spirit herb. He scanned the surroundings and quickly found the place where the purple spirit herb was located. There was a gray rabbit with ears half the length of its body squatting by the grass. It was leisurely eating the grass. He didn't dare to release his divine sense to observe for fear of disturbing the rabbit. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was only about 10 feet away from the purple spiritual grass. Immortal cultivators all had good eyesight. At this distance he could clearly see the spiritual grass and the rabbit. To Wang Daoyuan, the spirit herb and the rabbit were not unfamiliar. The rabbit was a rank 1 low-grade long-eared rabbit. It didn't have much combat power, but its hearing was sharp and it ran fast. This rabbit was easy to raise. As long as it was a spirit herb, it wouldn't let it go. Its reproduction speed was also very shocking. A pair of rabbits could reproduce 4 times a year, giving birth to more than 10 little rabbits each time. If he could catch a pair of rabbits, he could eat long-eared rabbits as food in the future. Wang Daoyuan was too familiar with the spirit herb that the long-eared rabbit was eating. As a spirit talisman master, how could he not recognize the materials used to make talisman paper? This purple spirit herb was a rank 2 low-grade spirit herb, purple gold grass. A 10-year-old purple gold grass could be used to make a rank 2 low-grade talisman paper. A 50-year-old purple gold grass could be used to make a rank 2 mid-grade talisman paper. A 100-year-old purple gold grass could be used to make a rank 2 high-grade talisman paper. Although the Wang family also had a few rank 2 spirit herbs, they didn't plant the purple gold grass. The main reason was that there were no living stalks or seeds of the purple gold grass. The talisman paper used by 9th great-uncle to make a rank 2 low-grade spirit talisman was also purchased. Now that they found the purple gold grass, it could be said that it added another source of income to the Wang family. At least in the future, the cost of making rank 2 spirit talismans could be reduced by a lot. They could also sell rank 2 talisman paper. The purple gold grass grew there and wouldn't run away. For the time being, there was no need to worry about it. It was more important to think of a way to capture the long-eared rabbit. Wang Daoyuan thought of a way to capture the long-eared rabbit. This thing had a keen sense of hearing. If he approached, it would be difficult to guarantee that he wouldn't be discovered. Once the long-eared rabbit was frightened and ran away, he wouldn't dare to carelessly chase after it in this dangerous place. It was possible that he would be brought to a rank 2 demonic beast's nest and die without even knowing how he died. Wang Daoyuan only had 2 methods to subdue the long-eared rabbit. The first was the soul-extinguishing bell. With one bell ring, even if the long-eared rabbit didn't die, it wouldn't have much breath left. The second was to use the illusion cloud talisman to make the long-eared rabbit fall into an illusion. He would then take the opportunity to capture the long-eared rabbit. The soul-extinguishing bell definitely couldn't be used. If he used an indiscriminate sound wave attack here, it would anger the surrounding demonic beasts. It was very likely that he would be surrounded by demonic beasts. He was more than 30 meters away from the long-eared rabbit. The slightest movement would scare the long-eared rabbit away. If he directly threw the talisman at it, by the time the talisman reached it, the long-eared rabbit would have run 2 miles away. If he relied on the cloud mist escape to quickly approach it and then threw out the talisman, there was a bit of hope. However, it was only a bit of hope. Although the spiritual energy here was dense, it wasn't pure water spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan's current cloud mist escape could only allow him to escape 20 meters away. He couldn't directly reach the long-eared rabbit. He still had to throw the illusion cloud talisman several meters away. He wasn't willing to give up just like that. If there was hope, he had to try. Even if he failed, he would only lose an illusion cloud talisman and a few spirit stones. Chapter 85. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense entered the space of the spirit pearl and controlled an illusion cloud talisman. He then used the cloud escape, and a cloud of mist with a diameter of more than 7 feet appeared in front of him. He immediately ran forward and used the illusion cloud talisman in the space of the spirit pearl. He instantly appeared only 10 feet away from the long-eared rabbit. At the same time, a cloud of mist flew out from between his eyebrows and enveloped the long-eared rabbit. He instantly escaped more than 7 feet away. The sound of wind breaking had already been heard by the long-eared rabbit. When he used the illusion cloud talisman, the long-eared rabbit had already started to escape. Now it was a competition of speed. Let's see if the illusion cloud talisman's enveloping speed was faster or if the long-eared rabbit was faster. Victory or defeat would only be decided in an instant. In less than half a breath's time, the cloud of mist created by the illusion cloud talisman enveloped the long-eared rabbit. The illusion cloud talisman caused the enemy to fall into an illusion. It must cover the enemy's head. If the long-eared rabbit's head wasn't covered, it wouldn't fall into the illusion. The frightened long-eared rabbit stomped on the ground with its 2 hind legs and leaped several feet away in an instant, leaving behind a cloud of mist on the ground. Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "As expected of the long-eared rabbit, so clever. I didn't want to waste time, but you forced me to destroy its nest." He immediately released 100 soul-chasing bees from the space and ordered them to chase after the long-eared rabbit through the bee king. The 100 soul-chasing bees quickly flew in the direction of the long-eared rabbit. Although the long-eared rabbit ran fast, it was still a demonic beast of the first tier. Wang Daoyuan could catch up with it using the spirit travel talisman, but running around in the sky beheading mountain range was too dangerous. Although he overcame his fear of death and no longer ran when facing enemies, he didn't want to die. However, being unafraid of death did not mean that he was courting death. Risking his life to chase after a rabbit was not worth it. But it was different with the soul-chasing bees. Their speed was comparable to a first-layer Foundation establishment cultivator's flying sword. Chasing after the rabbit was too easy. Moreover, they could help to scout the way. If there was danger ahead, the soul-chasing bees would die first. When the soul-chasing bees returned, he would follow them to the rabbit's nest. The danger would be much lower. With the queen bee around, as long as there were enough resources, she could lay hundreds of eggs a day. In 1 or 2 years, the little soul-chasing bees hatched from the eggs could reach adulthood. Coupled with the fact that the time flow in the space was 20 times faster, it would only take a little more than a month to nurture a batch of them. The death of a few workers was nothing. As the saying goes, rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows. The long-eared rabbit's nest should be quite far away from here, so the soul-chasing bees wouldn't be able to come back for a while. First, he put the purple gold grass into the space. It was a second-rank spirit herb, and it was also the raw material for making second-rank talismans. Its value was much higher than the long-eared rabbits. This clump of purple gold grass had 50 to 60 stalks. Wang Daoyuan did not dig up all of the purple gold grass, he only took half of them. He dug out 20 to 30 stalks of purple gold grass along with the soil. This way he would not harm the roots of the purple gold grass and would not affect its growth at all. After throwing the purple gold grass into the spiritual pearls space, he didn't need to worry about anything else. It was good to have a doppelganger. If there was something to do, the doppelganger would do it. While waiting for the soul-chasing bees, he didn't stay idle. He used his divine sense to scan the surroundings to see if there were any spirit herbs that were worth nurturing. Within the range of the sky/mountain range, there were almost no ordinary plants. The lowest level plants contained spirit chi but were not ranked. Most of these unranked plants did not have much value. After all, these plants did not contain as much spirit chi as spirit grains, so they could not be grown on a large scale. However, a few unranked plants still had special uses. For example, Wang Daoyuan encountered a very valuable spirit herb, chili. Ordinary itinerant cultivators would not even look at this thing. It had little spirit chi and its production was not high. It could not be used to refine pills or fill one's stomach. What was the use of it? For Wang Daoyuan it was very valuable. He could arrange for hot pot. Although this chili was only an unranked spirit herb, at least it was not harmful to cultivators. It could be used to make spirit food. Also, he could arrange for the long-eared rabbit and the spicy rabbit head that he was about to obtain. He still lacked Sichuan pepper. Qingxi village had Sichuan pepper trees. Although it was very difficult to nurture ordinary plants to a rank, this was a qualitative change and the difficulty was higher than upgrading spirit herbs. However, ordinary plants only needed to be planted in places with abundant spirit chi and propagated for a few generations to become unranked spirit herbs. This was only a quantitative change and the difficulty was not high. Although unranked spirit herbs did not have much effect on cultivators, at least they were not like ordinary food, which would increase the impurities in the body. It would not take long for ordinary Sichuan pepper trees to become unranked spirit herbs if they were planted in the stage 2 spirit fields in the space of the spirit pearl. This also inspired Wang Daoyuan. In the past he only thought about looking for spiritual plants. He didn't think about looking for some valuable ordinary plants. He planted them in the second-order spiritual field in the space and let them evolve into spiritual plants that weren't ranked. In this way there was no lack of various spirit herbs that could be used as seasonings. He would be able to gather them by going around the various areas where ordinary people lived in the Wang family's territory. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan's heart was filled with a sense of mission. Perhaps the heavens let him reincarnate into this world so that he could promote Chinese food culture. If he had the opportunity to catch a spirit chef with evil intentions, he would use the doppelganger soul nurturing technique to refine a doppelganger and throw it into the space of the spirit pearl to slowly study the dishes. In the future, the Wang family might shine because of the path of spirit chefs. Just as Wang Daoyuan was looking forward to the future, the soul-chasing bees that went to track the long-eared rabbit returned. It seemed that the long-eared rabbit's ability to seek luck and avoid disaster was not bad. Only a few of the soul-chasing bees were lost, indicating that this route was very safe. He put the pepper into the space of the spirit pearl and followed the soul-chasing bees to the long-eared rabbit's nest. Although the soul-chasing bees were scouting the way and it was very safe, Wang Daoyuan still used the breath-holding technique to reduce his breath to the minimum. There were no surprises or dangers along the way, and he smoothly reached the long-eared rabbit's hiding place. It had to be said that this long-eared rabbit was very good at hiding, choosing the root of a towering tree to burrow into. There was a tree hole at the root of this tree, and the hole was covered by gravel and vegetation, making it an excellent hiding place. Wang Daoyuan used the power of his divine sense to explore the hole, and found that there was a space of 2 feet inside the tree hole. There were 2 adult rabbits in the hole and more than 10 small rabbits half the size of a palm. This tree hole also had 2 exits. The long-eared rabbit was indeed cunning. He summoned 200 soul-chasing bees from the space and blocked the other 2 exits. Although the soul-chasing bees' individual combat strength was not strong, if 100 of them could not beat a rabbit of the same level, they were not worthy of being called soul-chasing bees. After the soul-chasing bees blocked the hole, Wang Daoyuan threw an illusion cloud talisman into the tree hole. The cloud of mist condensed by the illusion cloud talisman was even larger than the space inside the tree hole, and the 2 rabbits had nowhere to hide. Moreover, with a nest of small rabbits, the 2 large rabbits did not think of running away. The 2 large rabbits fell into the illusion and had no power to resist. He urged his spiritual power to condense a water dragon, and easily caught the rabbits from the tree hole, and directly put them into the space of the spirit pearl, and handed them over to his clone to manage. Wang Daoyuan was in the mood to observe the surrounding situation. This place was not far from the border of the sky/mountain range, and as long as they did not run around randomly, it was not particularly dangerous. He carefully sized up the tree in front of him, and saw that this tree was more than 30 feet tall, and the trunk needed 3 people to wrap around it. This was not an ordinary tree, but a second-tier low-grade mulberry tree. Chapter 86. Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of excitement in his heart. It was a low-grade second-tier spiritual wood, and it was a mulberry tree. Its value was not something that the purple gold grass could compare to. Even if it was a mulberry tree that had no special uses, once it reached the second tier, its branches could be used to refine magic tools. Mulberry tree bark could be used to make mulberry paper, which was a high-quality talisman paper. Most second-tier and above talisman papers were made from the bark of spiritual wood. Mulberries were also very valuable spiritual fruits that could be used to brew wine and as raw materials for alchemy. Even the dried branches of mulberry trees, when burned into spiritual charcoal, were extremely valuable. The most important thing was that the mulberry tree's greatest value was that its leaves could be used to breed spiritual silkworms and other spiritual insects. The heavenly/mountain range was rich in spiritual energy, so it was common for ordinary plants to evolve into spiritual plants. There were also many low-grade spiritual plants that evolved. Mulberry trees all looked similar and different species would have obvious differences. At this time there were no mulberries on this mulberry tree, so he could not distinguish the specific species. In places where there were few people, there would be wild spiritual silkworms resting on old mulberry trees. This mulberry tree was at least 400 to 500 years old, so how could there be no spiritual insects on it? He released the power of his divine sense and scanned the treetop. There were indeed some spiritual insects on this mulberry tree, but unfortunately they were all worthless things. There was not even a single silkworm. He was a little unwilling, so he commanded the 200 soul-chasing bees that had been released to go to the treetop and bring down a sample of all the insects. As warlike spiritual bees, the soul-chasing bees were familiar with these things. They quickly swept through the huge treetop and brought down dozens of insects. Unfortunately, they were all useless pests. Wang Daoyuan asked these soul-chasing bees if they had found anything strange. Several soul-chasing bees replied, "We found something white. We can only see it with our eyes, but we can't sense it." Although the soul-chasing bees' divine sense was weak, they still had the power of their divine sense. They could not sense it with their divine sense and could only see it with their eyes. This thing should have the function of avoiding the detection of divine sense. He personally climbed up the treetop to see what it was that could avoid the detection of divine sense. The treetop had already been swept by the soul-chasing bees, so there shouldn't be any danger. Even so, Wang Daoyuan still took out the jade pendant that old ancestor Yang had given him and hung it on his waist. In case of a sneak attack, he could activate the jade pendant to protect himself. Once the golden armor talisman and the earth armor talisman were activated, the spiritual energy fluctuation would be too great, and it would easily attract demonic beasts. Moreover, their defensive power was not as good as the jade pendant. What's more, the jade pendant didn't cost anything to use once. He didn't have too many talismans left, only less than 500. He still had to be thrifty. After the soul-chasing bee's sweep, there were no more living creatures on the treetop. Wang Daoyuan was naturally not attacked. After he climbed to the top of the tree, he did not release his divine sense. After all, this thing could avoid the power of divine sense, and divine sense could not scan anything. He could only rely on the few soul-chasing bees to lead the way. Soon, under the lead of the soul-chasing bees, Wang Daoyuan discovered what they were talking about. This thing was the size of an adult's thumb, long, oval, and snow-white. Looking carefully, he could see traces of silk on the surface. It was obviously a silkworm cocoon. Wang Daoyuan also raised a few silkworms to play with in his previous life, so he could recognize this thing. Wang Daoyuan searched the treetop and found a total of more than 30 silkworm cocoons. He put them into the space of the spirit bead. He also let his avatar check the 10,000 spirit chart and learn the information of this spirit silkworm. This spirit silkworm was called Forbidden Spirit Silkworm. It was generally a rank 1 upper grade spirit insect. If it could eat rank 2 spirit plants as food, it had a high chance of evolving into a rank 2 lower grade spirit insect. The silk of the Forbidden Spirit Silkworm could avoid the detection of divine sense. With the Forbidden Spirit Silkworm's silk as raw material, it was refined into spirit armor. When worn, it could avoid the detection of divine sense. It was very popular with assassins. The price of Forbidden Spirit Silkworm silk was not low. 1 gene of raw silk could be sold for 200 to 300 spirit stones. The next thing was to transplant the mulberry tree. Of course, it was not to transplant such a big tree. Even if he exhausted his divine sense, it was impossible to move such a big tree. Moreover, the tree was big and had deep roots. It was impossible for a foundation establishment cultivator to uproot such a big tree. Such a big tree that had grown for hundreds of years would definitely have its descendants beside it. He just needed to find a few saplings and transplant them into the space. However, mulberry trees could be propagated by cutting, so he could not let go of this big tree for nothing. After all, it was a rank 2 lower grade spirit wood. It would take a long time for its descendants to grow into rank 2 spirit wood. And if he picked some of the young branches of the big tree, it would grow into a rank 2 spirit wood even faster. He picked over 100 new branches and 10 or so old branches that were as thick as an arm. Wang Daoyuan wanted to cut down a few more old branches, but unfortunately he did not have the strength. Although the old branches were not as strong as the trunk, they were still comparable to a middle-grade rank 1 magic tool. It was especially strenuous to use the profound yang sword to cut them. These old branches could already be used to forge a high-grade rank 1 magic tool. If he wanted to forge a low-grade rank 2 magic tool, he would need the trunk of this mulberry tree. According to his understanding of spirit wood, it was easy for new branches to take root and grow. However, due to the lack of spirit chi, it would take a long time to grow into a rank 2 spirit wood. Although it was not easy for the old branches to grow, they had abundant spirit chi. As long as they grew, they would quickly grow into a rank 2 spirit wood. After doing all this, Wang Daoyuan came down from the canopy and found a few mulberry tree saplings that were as tall as a person. He even dug out the soil around the roots and placed them into the space of the spirit pearl. Transplanting these mulberry tree saplings was to prevent this kind of mulberry tree from being special. If the branches could not survive, there would be saplings as backup. The clone and the main body were telepathically connected. There was no need for him to instruct it. It followed his instructions and cleared out 2 mu of spirit fields to plant mulberry trees and purple gold grass. There were 3 mu of yellow cloud grass planted in the space. In the past few years there was a lot of stock. It would not be long before he could refine a low-grade rank 2 spirit talisman. His need for yellow cloud grass was not great. It would not be of much use to plant more. Out of the 3 mu of yellow cloud grass, 2 mu of spirit mulberry trees were planted, and the other half was planted with purple gold grass. He had caught rabbits, chopped branches and transplanted saplings nearby. He had made a lot of noise and had to leave as soon as possible. In a place where demonic beasts ran rampant, Rampaging was a big taboo. It was even more taboo not to run away after making a big noise. After tidying up everything, Wang Daoyuan returned to the place where he had first released the soul-chasing bee. According to the soul-chasing bee's report, there were several other places that had valuable spirit plants. Following the soul-chasing bee, Wang Daoyuan continued to search for spirit plants. Not long after, he found another spirit plant, the jasper watermelon. This jasper watermelon had a vine that was more than 3 meters long. There were 5 or 6 watermelons on it, and 3 of them were ripe. The ripe watermelons were the size of basketballs. They were round and green like jade. This was where the name of the jasper watermelon came from. The jasper watermelon was a middle-grade rank 1 spirit plant. It was full of spirit energy. If a Qi refinement cultivator ate it, it could speed up their cultivation speed. The taste was also very good. Although the jasper watermelon was good, no power was willing to plant it. This thing was too destructive to the spirit fields. If a batch of jasper watermelon was planted in a rank 1 spirit field, it would be impossible to plant another spirit plant for 10 years. The spirit energy in the spirit field would be absorbed by the jasper watermelon. Wang Daoyuan was not worried. He had planted so many spirit plants in the space of the spirit bead, but he had never seen the spirit energy in the spirit field decrease. He could also plant some on the Jade Spring Peak. After all, most of the spirit fields on the Jade Spring Peak were not naturally formed. They were watered by the Jade Dragon Spring water. When the spirit energy in the spirit fields was sucked dry, he could water them with the Jade Dragon Spring water. No matter how much spirit energy the jasper watermelon absorbed, it was just a middle-grade rank 1 spirit plant. Could it suck dry a high-grade rank 3 spirit vein? He dug out the watermelon vine roots and soil, and planted it in the space of the spirit bead. There was only 1 stalk. Moreover, the jasper watermelon was mainly eaten as a snack. It was not worth it to occupy an acre of spirit field. He squeezed it together with the golden thread spirit jujube and the fiery sun wood. Even if he planted more in the future, it was not impossible to plant watermelons in the forest. He could play with the 3-dimensional agriculture of his previous life. Chapter 87. Wang Daoyuan had already explored the heavenly/mountain range for 10 to 10 hours. At this time the sky was already dark. It was time to leave. Although cultivators' vision was not affected in the dark, wild beasts liked the dark night more than human cultivators. Many predators would lurk in their lairs to rest during the day and come out to hunt at night. The periphery of the heavenly/mountain range was full of danger during the day. Forget about the night. If he still did not leave the periphery of the heavenly/mountain range, he would probably be discovered by demonic beasts very soon. Once he fought with demonic beasts and caused a big commotion, it would attract rank 2 demonic beasts. At that time it would be hard to escape even if he grew wings. Entering the heavenly/mountain range this time could be said to have a bountiful harvest. Of course, it was mainly due to the soul-chasing bee's contribution. On this day he lost several dozen soul-chasing bees searching for spiritual items and scouting the way. If not for the soul-chasing bees, he would have died several dozen times and might not even gain anything. Wang Daoyuan searched for spiritual items twice. Both were near the borders and did not go deep inside. Therefore he could leave the range of the heavenly/mountain range very soon. After nightfall, demonic beast activities indeed became frequent. Wang Daoyuan only went in 20 to 30 miles. In the process of running out, he encountered several waves of demonic beasts. He also did not dare to tangle with demonic beasts, afraid of attracting rank 2 demonic beasts. Encountering demonic beasts along the way, he also dodged if he could. If he could not, he would quickly defeat them. 15 minutes later, Wang Daoyuan ran out of the heavenly/mountain range without any mishap. He was just about to find a place to rest when he saw an elderly cultivator walking toward him. When he got closer, Wang Daoyuan recognized the arrival. This person was Zhao Baogua. Zhao Baogua also had a small reputation in Clear Glass City. This person was mercenary and was good at currying favor. Seeing where there was profit to be gained, he would sharpen his head and drill in. Wang Daoyuan also heard that back then, after he fished out the Qing River carp and was knocked unconscious by a Foundation establishment cultivator, Zhao Baogua came to test Granduncle Ninth. In the end, he was fooled by Granduncle Ninth and helped the Wang family instead. Although this person's reputation was not much, he should still have real ability under his hands. He must have offended a lot of people. If he didn't have any real skills, he would have been killed many times over. Meeting Zhao Baogua here, a fight was inevitable. Zhao Baogua was the first to speak. Little Dao, you worked until the sky turned dark. Looks like you've gained a lot. This old man likes to purchase all kinds of spiritual items. I wonder if little Dao Yu is willing to sell some of your gains? As the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. Although he knew that Zhao Baogua wasn't a good person, since he was speaking nicely, Wang Daoyuan didn't want to hit him. He replied, Senior, you think too highly of me. I didn't dare to go too deep and tried my luck near the border. I didn't find anything good when the sky turned dark. I encountered a few waves of demonic beasts and almost didn't make it out. Before he could finish speaking, Zhao Baogua pounced on him. Fortunately, he was prepared and hid 2 earth armor talismans on him. At this moment, seeing Zhao Baogua pouncing on him, he immediately activated the earth armor talisman, and 2 layers of earth yellow armor appeared on his body. Wang Daoyuan didn't passively take the beating. He followed up with a left front kick, a right leg whip and a left jab. Zhao Baogua's martial arts were really good. He easily blocked Wang Daoyuan's 3 attacks. These 3 attacks also interrupted Zhao Baogua's momentum of pouncing. After Wang Daoyuan's 3rd attack, the originally powerful attack only lightly hit Wang Daoyuan's face. With the protection of the 2 layers of earth armor, this punch also hit the earth armor talisman without causing any substantial damage. Zhao Baogua's strength was exhausted. Wang Daoyuan took the opportunity to throw a left jab straight at Zhao Baogua's face. Zhao Baogua didn't have time to defend with his hands. He could only tilt his head to avoid this punch. Wang Daoyuan's punch was very fast. Zhao Baogua couldn't completely avoid it. The fist rubbed against his right eye. The 2 separated. In this round of confrontation, Wang Daoyuan used the power of the earth armor talisman to gain a slight advantage. Zhao Baogua covered his eye and said, Stop. This wasn't a place to fight. It was best not to fight. What's more, Zhao Baogua's reputation was out there. Wang Daoyuan didn't know his depth, so he didn't have the confidence to take him down. After dozens of breaths, Zhao Baogua recovered and reprimanded Wang Daoyuan. Young people don't talk about martial ethics. I'll stop fighting. You actually sneak attacked me, an old senior. Wang Daoyuan couldn't help but curse in his heart. If you have the ability, you can continue fighting. Let's see if your punch can break my 2 layers of earth armor talisman. Of course he couldn't say that. Fighting at the edge of the sky/mountain range in the middle of the night might attract demon beasts. I'm really sorry. When I saw Senior pounce over, I overreacted. Please forgive me. Zhao Baogua was at the 8th level of Qi refinement. After decades, his combat ability was definitely not weak. He couldn't use his trump card easily. It was definitely not easy to take down Zhao Baogua. The demon beasts of the sky/mountain range wouldn't easily cross the border. It wasn't because they didn't dare to come over, but because they despised the thin spirit Qi here. It wasn't as dense as the spirit Qi in the sky/mountain range. If someone was fighting here and the commotion was too big, they wouldn't mind coming over to take advantage of it. Zhao Baogua reprimanded, Young man, take care of yourself. Don't make such a clever move again. Wang Daoyuan repeatedly agreed and cupped his hands. Senior, Junior still has important matters to attend to, so I won't accompany you any longer. Farewell. With that, he left without waiting for Zhao Baogua's reply. Perhaps because he felt that he couldn't take down Wang Daoyuan, Zhao Baogua didn't stop him. He walked past Zhao Baogua, but he didn't dare to let down his guard completely. The 2 layers of earth armor talisman still covered his entire body. A wisp of divine sense entered a storage bag at his waist, ready to take out the profound yang sword at any time. Although the profound yang sword wasn't very useful, it was sturdy. It was still very reliable to block an opponent's attack. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that Zhao Baogua would make a move when the 2 of them crossed shoulders. He focused his attention and prepared to counterattack, but he didn't expect that the other party didn't make a move. He continued to walk forward. If the other party didn't make a move, it would be even better. He had just obtained a batch of precious spiritual items, so he wasn't interested in robbing for the time being. The other party didn't make a move at the best time, so the possibility of him making a move was much smaller. Wang Daoyuan's vigilance decreased a little. When he was about 5 feet away from Zhao Baogua, a long whip suddenly appeared in Zhao Baogua's hand. He turned around and lashed out at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan didn't take it to heart. After all, with the 2 layers of Earth Armor Talisman, no one below Foundation Establishment could hurt him in one move. With a pause sound, the tip of the whip hit his body. The first layer of Earth Armor Talisman dimmed. Although it wasn't broken, it couldn't withstand the same attack again. In the blink of an eye, the second whip followed. The first layer of Earth Armor was broken and the second layer of Earth Armor Talisman dimmed a lot. In the blink of an eye, Wang Daoyuan's third whip arrived. He didn't even have the time to take things from his storage bag and spiritual bead space. The second layer of Earth Armor Talisman was broken again. With the power of this whip, he reckoned that he would be heavily injured by the next strike. At this time he thought of the jade pendant hanging on his waist. It was a rank 2 defensive magic tool. It could withstand a full-force attack from an early Foundation Establishment cultivator. It shouldn't be difficult to defend against a Qi condensation cultivator's attack. His spiritual sense quickly probed the jade pendant and stimulated its power. A layer of white jade-colored light enveloped his body. When the third whip arrived, the Earth Armor Talisman instantly disappeared. The whip's power was still there. When it hit the white jade-colored light barrier, the light barrier only trembled slightly. The fourth whip only slightly dimmed the light barrier. The fifth whip was like a dragon swinging its tail. It seemed that this Xiao Baogu was going all out. The power of this strike was much stronger than the previous 4 whips. Xiao Baogu used only a little more than a breath of time to strike 5 consecutive whips. With this kind of fighting ability, there were few opponents among Qi condensation cultivators. However, Wang Daoyuan didn't take it seriously. The light barrier's power was at least more than 90%. Even a first-level Foundation Establishment cultivator's full-force attack couldn't break it. A Qi condensation cultivator's attack couldn't hurt him. When the whips hit the light barrier, they didn't have much effect. They only weakened the light barrier's power by about 10%. Just when Wang Daoyuan thought that this strike was over, something strange happened. Chapter 88. The spiritual energy from Xiao Baogu's previous 4 whips didn't completely dissipate, but gathered together with the spiritual energy from the 5th whip. The spiritual energy of these 5 whips belonged to the 5 elements, the 5 elements mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. At this time, the 5 elements were restraining each other. The spiritual energy of the 5 elements burst out instantly, directly shattering the light shield on Wang Daoyuan's body. After shattering the light shield, the spiritual energy didn't run out, continuing to attack Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan didn't have time to use the talisman to protect himself. He could only use all his strength to activate the silk armor on his body to take on the remaining power of this move. With a boom, the remaining power of this attack hit his body. He flew out more than 10 feet and landed on the ground, only feeling the blood in his chest churning like it was on fire. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Only then did he feel slightly better. This time he was heavily injured, but luckily the silk armor blocked it. He didn't lose the ability to resist. This time he was really careless. He didn't think that a Qi disciple level 8 could have such a strong burst of power. If he had used the cloud mist escape in advance, he wouldn't have been hit like this. The final burst of power of these 5 whips was comparable to an early Foundation Establishment cultivator using the sword controlling technique. If he didn't have the jade pendant that old ancestor Yang gave him to protect himself, he would have died without a doubt. He stood up, sticking 5 earth armor talismans on his body, immediately activating them. 5 layers of earth yellow armor wrapped around him. Then he took out a golden sword talisman, striking it towards Xiao Baogu. And after Xiao Baogu used such a big move like the 5 whips, he still had energy left. He waved the long whip again, one whip shattering the small golden sword, and this whip didn't use much spiritual energy. Seeing this, Wang Daoyuan thought, this whip is quite powerful, it's very likely a level 2 magic tool, and Xiao Baogu didn't seem to use much strength to activate this magic tool. If he continues to fight like this, even if he uses all his methods and can defeat Xiao Baogu, he will still attract demon beasts, or rogue cultivators who come to take advantage of the situation. It's not impossible to quickly finish him off. This old guy is despised even by dogs in Qingli County, and he's still alive and well. He definitely has a life-saving move. Coupled with this long whip Dharma artifact, his fighting prowess was equivalent to 2 Zhang Deshang's. It was estimated that even if he used the second-level low-grade golden knife talisman, he still might not be able to take him down. In addition to the talisman, he had two trump cards in his hands, the soul-extinguishing bell and the soul-splitting blade. The soul-extinguishing bell's movements were too big. Unless it was a last resort, he couldn't use it. He could try using the soul-splitting blade, but there were risks involved. His spiritual cultivation is comparable to the peak of qi refining stage. Zhao Baogua is not a pushover either. If his spiritual cultivation is injured and he uses the soul-splitting blade on him, it may cause a counter-injury. However, the consequences were not too serious. After all, Zhao Baogua was only a qi refining stage cultivator. Even if his spiritual awareness cultivation was higher than his own, it was still limited. Even if using the soul-splitting blade would cause a backlash, it wouldn't be impossible to recover from. He was prepared to find an opportunity to use the smoke escape, close the distance, and then use the soul-splitting blade to attack Zhao Baogua. Taking advantage of the pause after Zhao Baogua used the 5 consecutive whips, he first took out the profound yang sword. With his current strength in a battle, the profound yang sword was no longer of much use. However, it won in terms of sturdiness. Using it to block the opponent's attack was still useful. Otherwise, if he relied on the talisman to resist, not to mention the huge consumption, his body would also have to bear a part of the attack. At this time, he had already suffered some internal injuries. If he continued to resist, his injuries would only get worse. It was better to find an opportunity to use the soul-splitting blade to launch a sneak attack. If it didn't succeed, he would quickly run away. If he continued to dawdle, he was afraid that he would lose himself here. Seeing that he still had the strength to resist, Zhao Baogua lashed out again. The speed of this whip was extremely fast. From the time he made his move to the tip of the whip, it didn't even take half a breath of time. Although it wasn't as powerful as the previous 5 consecutive whips, it still couldn't be underestimated. Wang Daoyuan used the profound yang sword to block the tip of the whip. He only felt a huge force shaking his arm until it went numb. A casual attack with such power, this was definitely a second-grade magic tool. Zhao Baogua also said in surprise, "What a hard sword. A mere mid-grade tier 1 magic tool can actually fight against a mid-grade tier 2 magic tool." Before he finished speaking, another whip lashed out. Wang Daoyuan used his sword to block it. Zhao Baogua gently shook the whip. The tip of the whip just happened to avoid the profound yang sword, and the whip landed on his body. There were 5 layers of earth armor on his body. The outermost layer had dimmed, and there was less than half of its strength left. The power of this whip had already surpassed the vast majority of peak qi refinement cultivators. Although he had the earth armor to protect his body, the remaining force still caused his blood to surge. He cursed in his heart. A cultivator at the 8th level of qi refinement was still not exhausted after continuously attacking like this. Is this old brat a monster? Before he could react, another whip lashed out. The two of them exchanged more than 10 moves. Wang Daoyuan was whipped a few more times, and there was only 1 layer of earth armor left on his body. He wanted to take out the talisman many times, but he was interrupted by Zhao Baogua's lightning-fast attacks. Although he could activate the talisman in the space of the spirit pearl and draw it out, it would be very dangerous. But in this way it would be easy to expose the space in the spiritual pearl, and he didn't have full confidence in taking down Zhao Baogua. Up until now, Wang Daoyuan had only used the things on the surface. He did not have to take down Zhao Baogua, so letting him go would not be a big loss. Originally, he wanted to sneak attack a wave before leaving, but with Zhao Baogua's reaction speed, the probability of success was extremely low. He would also expose his trump card, the soul-splitting blade. Zhao Baogua once again lashed out with his whip. Wang Daoyuan strenuously received this attack and immediately used the cloud mist escape to escape 20 feet away. The moment he escaped, Zhao Baogua's next whip lashed out at the place he was originally at. Seeing him escape, Zhao Baogua was not willing to let him go. After spending so much effort, how could he let a fat sheep slip away like this? It has to be said that Zhao Baogua was indeed a veteran of the battlefield. His speed was really fast. Using the divine movement technique, he was much faster than Wang Daoyuan using the first-level high-grade divine movement talisman. Wang Daoyuan was forced to use the cloud escape frequently. Along the way, he drank several bottles of aged scarlet blood wine to recover his spiritual energy. The two of them, one running and one chasing, finally reached the bank of the clear stream. Without saying anything, Wang Daoyuan directly jumped into the stream. The cloud escape was a water attribute escape technique. After entering the water, the entire body of water was equivalent to a cloud of mist that he created. In the water he could use the cloud escape continuously with the smallest consumption of spiritual energy. Zhao Baogua chased him to the bank of the clear stream. He was not willing to give up and also jumped into the water. But how could his normal water escape be compared to Wang Daoyuan's cloud escape? Very quickly the distance between them was pulled apart. He was a bit intoxicated. Using all his skills he forcefully increased his speed and closely followed Wang Daoyuan. Chasing in the water, as long as the distance was pulled apart, it would be very difficult to find traces of the enemy. Therefore, Zhao Baogua was not willing to fall behind at all. Wang Daoyuan was like a fish in water in the clear stream. Very quickly he had escaped over 100 miles away without using much spiritual energy. Looking back he discovered that Zhao Baogua was still following him 20 feet away. Although it looked like the chase was very strenuous, he clenched his teeth and did not fall behind. He angrily cursed, "Is this old thing a turtle? He won't let go once he bites someone. Taking the initiative to steal from me, I am the one who is injured. You didn't lose anything. Is there a need to risk your life to chase after me?" Zhao Baogua was still in hot pursuit. Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to continue using the cloud escape to escape. Although using the cloud escape in the water did not consume much spiritual energy, just in case he still needed to replenish it. Drinking the scarlet blood wine in the water was a bit strenuous. He could only use his spiritual energy to wrap the wine and put it into his mouth. He could not let even a bit of the wine leak out. This was all aged wine. If it leaked into the water it would attract a large group of aquatic monsters. At that time, there would be enemies in front and enemies chasing from behind. It would be hard to not die. Chapter 89. He didn't know what was going on with Zhao Baogua. He didn't see him eat spirit pills to recover his spirit power. How could he consume so much energy? If Wang Daoyuan hadn't drunk spirit wine many times, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. After escaping for hundreds of miles, Zhao Baogua was still chasing behind. Wang Daoyuan was also helpless. He had never seen such a consumption of energy. A cultivator at the 8th level of Qi disciple, his spirit power was stronger than Zhang Deshang, a foundation establishment cultivator. Coupled with his powerful whip technique, except for the fact that he couldn't fly on his sword, he could be treated as a foundation establishment cultivator. Wang Daoyuan continued to move forward in the water. Suddenly finding a big hole on the shore in front of him, he probed into the hole with his spiritual sense, only to see that the hole was extremely narrow. Only one person could barely pass through. Inside the hole was a winding path, and in the depths of the hole was a space with a radius of 5 feet. In the hole lived a first-rank upper-grade python. Its aura was not very strong. It was only at the 7th level of Qi disciple and it seemed to be sleeping. The entrance of the snake hole was underwater. The cave was hidden. It was just the right time to take out all his trump cards and smash this old guy to death. Escaping like this was not a solution. It would be troublesome if he encountered another monster. It was better to hide. If he could hide, he would hide. If he couldn't, he would use all his trump cards to kill this old guy. He used the invisibility technique, used the breath-concealing talisman, and directly drilled into the hole. The python was sleeping and didn't notice him immediately. He naturally wouldn't take the initiative to provoke the python, and went to a corner farthest from the python to hide. Zhao Baogua had been following behind Wang Daoyuan, but the target suddenly disappeared. He searched around and soon found the cave where Wang Daoyuan was hiding. With a simple sweep of his divine sense he found the sleeping python, but he didn't find Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the breath-concealing technique at this time. He could avoid the detection of spiritual sense to a certain extent, unless the spiritual sense cultivation was higher than his, otherwise, it would be difficult to find his existence. Zhao Baogua did not easily let go of this cave. After all, the target was lost here. Only this cave could hide people around. He didn't hide his aura and drilled straight into the cave. A big living person drilled into the cave, naturally alarmed the python in the cave. The python woke up and attacked Zhao Baogua. Zhao Baogua didn't be polite with the python. With a whip, he directly broke the python's hard scales, leaving a wound more than a foot long and an inch deep. Under the pain, the giant python's ferocious nature erupted as it crazily pounced towards Zhao Baogua. It was a pity that this giant python was only an ordinary high-grade level 1 demonic beast. It did not have a high-grade demonic beast bloodline, nor did it awaken any innate skills. Its strength was not considered strong among its peers. How could it be compared to Zhao Baogua, who had a super strong combat power? Soon the python's tutus with the chi, the python. Zhao Baogua held the whip in his hand and said, "Young man, isn't it time to come out? There's no point in hiding anymore, come out and accept your death." Wang Daoyuan showed himself and immediately stuck 5 earth armor talismans on his body. 5 layers of earth yellow armor covered his body and he smiled. "Senior, why are you forcing me?" Zhao Baogua smiled. "You're here indeed. People die for wealth and birds die for food. You have a lot of talismans on you and a level 2 defensive magic weapon. Do I need a reason to kill you?" Wang Daoyuan chuckled and said, "I asked too much. I didn't want to kill you, but you're courting death." Before he finished speaking, 3 golden sword talismans flew out, heading straight for Zhao Baogua. To Zhao Baogua, this kind of attack was nothing. He quickly waved his whip and scattered the 3 small golden swords. He said, "You're so young, yet you have such big words. You want to take me down with just a high-grade grade 1 spirit talisman?" Wang Daoyuan threw out another 5 golden sword talismans. Zhao Baogua smiled contemptuously and waved his whip again, hitting the small golden swords. At this time, Wang Daoyuan activated the soul-extinguishing bell hidden in his sea of consciousness, and a brass bell appeared out of thin air. Previously, he was afraid of exposing the soul-extinguishing bell outside, and Qi Yun's enemies would come looking for him. In this underground cave, there was no need to worry about being exposed at all. He injected his consciousness and spirit power into the soul-extinguishing bell, and it emitted a golden light, enveloping Wang Daoyuan. At the same time, a loud bell rang. Zhao Baogua was currently waving his whip to hit the small golden swords. He did not expect Wang Daoyuan to have a sound wave magic weapon, and without any preparation he took the soul-extinguishing bell's attack head-on. This was not the wilderness but the underground cave. The sound wave hit the surrounding walls and then reflected back, causing many injuries to Zhao Baogua. Although these reflected sound wave attacks were far less powerful than the first wave, they won in number. After about 10 breaths, the cave quieted down. Zhao Baogua lay on the ground with his eyes rolled back, foaming at the mouth, and his body occasionally twitched a few times. It seemed that his injuries were not light and the giant python directly died. Originally he wanted to directly end Zhao Baogua, but on second thought this old boy had a lot of secrets. It was a pity to kill him like this, and it was more suitable to refine him into an avatar. Taking advantage of the fact that his soul was now seriously injured and had not yet recovered, he gave him a soul-splitting blade. Wang Daoyuan condensed the soul-splitting blade, almost exhausting all of his consciousness. The soul-splitting blade pointed straight at Zhao Baogua's forehead. At this time, Zhao Baogua was still unconscious and had no strength to resist. The soul-splitting blade shot directly into his sea of consciousness between his eyebrows, destroying his mind and consciousness as easily as blowing off dust. This surprised Wang Daoyuan. Zhao Baogua had previously controlled a Tier 2 magic tool with ease, so his divine sense cultivation shouldn't be low. But now, under the soul-splitting blade, he actually couldn't withstand a single blow. Could it be because he was seriously injured by the soul-extinguishing bell and lost the ability to resist? If so, Wang Daoyuan could use the soul-extinguishing bell to injure Qi Yun, and then use the soul-splitting blade to destroy his consciousness without worrying about his own soul being damaged. Of course, now was not the time. At this time, his spiritual sense was almost non-existent, and he was unable to split his soul into an avatar. He could only take out a few pots of jade butterfly orchid from the space, take a spirit cleansing pill and a rejuvenation pill, and meditate to restore his spiritual sense and heal his injuries. 3 hours later, Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense had basically recovered, and he once again condensed the soul-splitting blade, cut a small part of his soul, and after nourishing it for a while, merged it with his avatar. With the previous experience, this time he cast the secret technique much faster, and it only took him 1 day to complete the whole process. He put his avatar into the spirit bead's space and seized the time to heal his injuries. 3 days later, his physical injuries were completely healed, and his soul's injuries were also stabilized. In the spirit bead space, with the help of the 20-fold flow of time, his soul had already completely taken control of his avatar, and now began to take care of the affairs in the space. Wang Daoyuan used his avatar to spy on Zhao Baogua's memories and learned about Zhao Baogua's life experience. Zhao Baogua was born in Immortal family, and when he was young he was apprenticed to a rogue cultivator. That rogue cultivator was not an ordinary person, and he was a Pentas spirit root cultivator who cultivated a 5-element cultivation method. This cultivation method was obtained by the rogue cultivator when he explored the cave of an ancient cultivator. For a Pentas spirit root cultivator, cultivating a 5-element cultivation method was better than cultivating a single-element cultivation method. However, cultivating a 5-element cultivation method was not only slow, but it also consumed a lot of resources. That rogue cultivator cultivated for over 100 years, but his cultivation was only at the 7th level of qi refining. Seeing that his lifespan was not long and he had no hope of reaching foundation establishment, he wanted to find a successor to pass down his cultivation method. In the end he found Zhao Baogua, and Zhao Baogua was also a Pentas spirit root cultivator, so he was just right to inherit his mantle. Chapter 90. That rogue cultivator accepted Zhao Baogua and taught him a cultivation technique. Not long after Zhao Baogua entered the qi refining stage he passed away. His life savings were left to Zhao Baogua. Among them were some spirit stones, a 5-elements cultivation technique, a 5-elements origin technique, a level 2 middle grade long whip and a treasure map. Zhao Baogua's master had obtained both the cultivation technique and the long whip when he had explored the ancient cultivator's abode. The treasure map was personally drawn by him. The map recorded the location of the ancient cultivator's abode, as well as the route he took to explore the abode. That ancient cultivator was also a Pentas spirit veins cultivator. He combined many cultivation methods and secret techniques to create a cultivation method that was suitable for cultivators with Pentas spirit veins. Furthermore, he himself had used this technique to cultivate to the Jindan realm, and was known as the 5-elements spiritual master. Of course, the 5-elements spiritual master's cultivation method was not the same as Zhao Baogua's primordial 5-elements technique. The primordial 5-elements technique was the original version of the technique created by the 5-elements Taoist. Later on, based on this foundation, he used other cultivation methods and secret techniques to improve them. Finally, he created a cultivation method that could allow a cultivator with 5 spiritual roots to reach the golden core stage or even the Yuanying stage. The 5-elements spiritual master failed to break through the Yuanying realm and passed away in a secret realm. Before he died, he wanted to find a successor, but unfortunately there was no time. He could only leave his legacy in the place where he died. The 5-elements Taoist inheritance was divided into 2 parts. The first part was the 5-elements primordial technique in the rank 2 medium grade long whip. Any cultivator with 5 spiritual roots would be able to obtain this inheritance. However, in order to obtain the golden core inheritance of the 5-elements Taoist, one must first cultivate the primordial 5-elements technique to the great success stage. Zhao Baogua and his master had never been able to meet this requirement in their entire lives. Zhao Baogua's level 2 magic whip was also made by the 5-elements Taoist. The long whip was called the 5 Dragons Soul-Chasing Whip, and it was the work of the 5-elements spiritual master. He hunted down 5 rank 2 giant pythons and used their tendons as the main material. These 5 giant pythons belonged to the 5 elements, and together with a few 5-elements spirit items he refined the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip. Because the 5 elements primordial art and the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip came from the same source, they complemented each other and had a high compatibility. For those who cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique, the 5 Dragon Soul Chasing Whip was more powerful and consumed less spiritual energy. This was also one of the reasons why Zhao Baogua could persist for such a long time despite his frequent high-intensity attacks. Another reason was that the primordial 5 elements art focused on building the foundation. In the process of cultivating the primordial 5 elements art, one would constantly expand and strengthen one's dantian and meridians. Therefore, Zhao Baogua's dantian was much larger than other cultivators of the same level, and his spiritual power was also much stronger than others of the same level. When the 5 elements primordial art was cultivated to the realm of great success, whether it was the dantian, meridians, or the amount of spiritual power, they had all reached the limit of a qi refining cultivator. The gap between them and ordinary cultivators who had just reached the foundation establishment stage was very small. The cultivation speed of Pentas spirit roots cultivators was already slow. In addition, the primordial 5 elements art focused too much on the foundation. Without a large amount of resources, it was impossible for them to cultivate to the realm of great success in their lifetime. In fact, this was also the method that the 5 elements spiritual master used to choose his successor. Those who could cultivate to the realm of great success were either good at earning resources. Such people's intelligence was definitely not bad and they would live for a long time. Or they had a good family background or great opportunities. Such people did not need to worry about resources and had a bright future. Of course, spending a lot of time and resources to cultivate the primordial 5 elements art also had great benefits. Cultivating to the realm of great success could increase the success rate of foundation establishment. As for the specific increase, it varied from person to person. At most, it could increase the success rate by 30%, and 1.5 foundation establishment pills could be saved. Moreover, because this technique strengthened the cultivator's body from the inside out, if a cultivator did not have a foundation establishment pill and failed to reach the foundation establishment stage, it would generally only damage one's meridians and dantian, and the probability of life being in danger was not high. Zhao Baoguo was also a capable person. He knew that cultivating the primordial 5 elements art to the realm of great success required a large amount of resources, and he himself did not have the talent to learn the 100 arts of immortal cultivation, so he did the work of master profiteer. He bought pills, talismans, magic tools from the clear glass market and sold them at a high price to the Green Willow region. Then he bought precious spiritual herbs and ores at a low price in the Green Willow region and sold them at a high price to the clear glass market. Selling goods from both sides, he earned a lot of resources over the years. If he was not a Pentas spirit roots cultivator with the large amount of resources he earned, he would have already reached the foundation establishment stage. Even so, he still had a chance to reach the foundation establishment stage. Although Zhao Baoguo looked very old, in fact he was not very old. He was only 69 years old, and among the cultivators he could only be considered a middle-aged man. In his lifetime he still had a high chance of cultivating the primordial 5 elements art to the realm of great success. Although after 70 years old his qi and blood began to decline, and the success rate of reaching the foundation establishment stage decreased, but with the support of the primordial 5 elements art and the foundation establishment pill, even after 100 years old he still had a high chance of reaching the foundation establishment stage. Besides, if he could really cultivate to the realm of great success, he could inherit the legacy left behind by the 5 elements spiritual master. With the legacy of a golden core cultivator, the problem of reaching the foundation establishment stage would not be big. After prying into Zhao Baoguo's memories, Wang Daoyuan could not suppress the excitement in his heart. The primordial 5 elements art and the legacy of a golden core cultivator were simply tailor-made for him. With the space in the spirit pearl he could have as many resources as he wanted. Wang Daoyuan originally wanted to reach the foundation establishment stage first, and then switch to the cultivation method, but now he had to switch ahead of time. In the whole of Beiyuan Zhou Xian, he was afraid that he could not find a more suitable legacy for him than the 5 elements spiritual master. Switching to the cultivation method should be done sooner rather than later. Wang Daoyuan intended to wait for the clan leader and the people of the Green Willow province to complete the negotiations, and then start the switch. Zhao Baoguo's value was not only this, he had decades of experience in profiteering, and he had the connections and channels to resell resources. If the clan could completely take over these connections and channels, coupled with the effect of the Spirit Pearl's space, their annual income would most likely double. The 5 elements spiritual master's legacy and Zhao Baoguo's connections were not urgent, and needed to be considered in the long run. Zhao Baoguo had 2 storage bags hanging on his body for a person like him who was good at currying favor, and was also a rogue cultivator without family and employment. He definitely had a lot of good things on him. He opened the first storage bag, which was full of pills, talismans, magic tools and the like, but unfortunately they were all first rank. Although the value of a single item was not high, but the quantity was large. Hundreds of first-rank pills, hundreds of first-rank high-grade talismans, more than 30 first-rank magic tools. All of these things added together would cost at least 10,000 spirit stones. Opening the second storage bag, there were not many things in this storage bag. A few jade slips, a long whip, a treasure map and a second-rank low-grade pill furnace. The most frightening thing was that there were more than 100 middle-grade spirit stones. This was equivalent to more than 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. Zhao Baoguo was really rich. The savings from decades of reselling resources, other than the daily consumption for cultivation, the rest should be here. This second-rank low-grade pill furnace, it was really a coincidence. Wang Daoyuan wanted to learn alchemy. Everything was ready, only a pill furnace was missing. It was just that good pill furnaces were expensive, and the clan was in urgent need of spirit stones, so he was not willing to buy one. He did not expect Zhao Baogua to send one. He saw that this pill furnace was purple-red. It should be refined from the second-rank middle-grade purple sun copper. The furnace body was engraved with a fire phoenix. He pried into Zhao Baogua's memories and learned that this pill furnace was called Fire Phoenix Purple Sun Furnace. A Foundation establishment rogue cultivator in the Green Willow region asked him to buy it. It was worth more than 4,000 spirit stones, equal to 3 magic tools of the same rank. The jade slips recorded the 5 elements mixed yuan technique, the 5 dragon soul chasing whip, and several spells. Chapter 91. Wang Daoyuan packed up Zhao Baogua's belongings and put the giant python's corpse into his space, handing it over to his 2 doppelgangers to deal with. This giant python was also a poor python. It was a dignified high-grade rank 1 demonic beast, but there was nothing valuable in its cave. After leaving the cave, he discovered that he wasn't far from Mirror Iron Mountain. The harvest this time was huge, so he could give some things that he didn't need to the patriarch for the time being. Especially these 100 or so mid-grade spirit stones. After giving them to the patriarch, the total number of spirit stones in the clan would exceed 60,000. Obtaining a Foundation establishment pill could be said to be a cinch. In order to avoid exposing his whereabouts, he didn't choose to go ashore. Instead, he continued to use cloud mist escape in the water. Once he found the underground river where the spiritual spring cavern was located, he followed the flow of the river upstream. After entering the Spirit Spring Cavern, he was shocked. It had only been a few days, but the cavern had changed greatly. The originally uneven ground had been smoothed out, and there were more than 6 acres of spirit fields. All kinds of spirit herbs had been scattered in the spirit fields, and some had already sprouted. In the middle of the newly opened spirit fields, a new canal was dug to irrigate the spirit fields with spirit spring water. There were also many jade butterfly orchids planted on both sides of the canal. Seeing his shocked expression, Wang Shi proudly asked, "How is it? Your uncle did well, right?" Wang Daoyuan didn't answer. He directly took out a purple gold grass and waved it in front of the 12th uncle. Wang Shi's eyes widened. He swallowed his saliva and shouted in shock, "Purple gold grass, it's still alive." His shout startled the patriarch who was meditating beside the spirit spring. Patriarch Wang Xian was also extremely shocked when he saw the purple gold grass in Wang Daoyuan's hand. "Daoyuan, where did this purple gold grass come from?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I went out to see if there was an ambush near the meeting place. I also crossed the border of the sky/mountain range and went in to search for spirit items. I found a clump of purple gold grass. I still have some here." After saying that, Wang Daoyuan took out another 10 or so purple gold grass. There was still a clump of soil on the roots. Wang Xian excitedly took the purple gold grass. With the purple gold grass, the clan will no longer lack low-grade level 2 spirit talismans. "Daoyuan, you've done a great service. I'll give you 3,000 clan contribution points for these purple gold grass." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Fifth great uncle, don't be in such a hurry to calculate the contribution points. There are still some good things that you haven't taken out yet." After saying that, he took out a dozen cocoons and 4 mulberry saplings that were as tall as a person. The saplings of the mulberry trees had already taken root, so there was no point in keeping these saplings. However, the branches of the mulberry tree were clearly not freshly plucked and looked like they had been stored for a few days. It was too suspicious to take them out, so he could only hand the saplings over to the chief. When Wang Xian and Wang Shi saw the cocoon and mulberry sapling, their eyes widened. To a clan, this was a true treasure. Planting mulberries and raising silkworms was much more cost-effective than mining ores. Small mines generally didn't have spirit veins, but they needed cultivators to oversee them. In places without spirit veins, the spirit energy was very thin. It was not enough to sustain the daily cultivation of a qi refinement cultivator. That would require the consumption of spirit stones or pills. As a result, the cost went up. Planting mulberries and raising silkworms could be done on their own spirit mountains. Their daily work was picking mulberry leaves, spinning silk, and so on. These tasks could be done by ordinary people. They only needed cultivators to watch over these spirit silkworms and prevent them from escaping. The cost of planting mulberries and raising silkworms was extremely low. As long as there was sufficient spirit energy, the spirit mulberries could grow very well without needing to be planted in spirit fields. The Wang clan could be said to be blessed by the heavens. With the Jade Dragon Spring, as long as they watered it often, they could plant spirit mulberries anywhere. Jade Spring Peak could plant spirit mulberries and raise spirit silkworms on a large scale. Moreover, these tasks didn't require cultivators to do them. The clan had about 100,000 ordinary people, and there were thousands of new children born every year. They could take care of as many spirit mulberries as they wanted. Now that they had spirit mulberries and spirit silkworms, the clan could develop the mulberry silkworm industry as their main business in the future. This was a sustainable development path, unlike spirit mines that would disappear after they were mined. As long as there were spirit veins, the mulberry silkworm industry could continue. The mulberry silkworm industry was a low-cost and high-return industry, but very few clans would use it as a pillar industry. There were two main reasons. First, without conditions like the Jade Dragon Spring, they could only rely on spirit fields to plant spirit mulberries. Spirit trees needed a lot of space to grow, and only a few could be planted in one mu of land. It also consumed a lot of soil energy, so planting spirit mulberries was not as cost-effective as planting spirit herbs. Second, common spirit silkworms were all low-grade grade 1 spirit silkworms. High-grade spirit silkworms were extremely rare, and low-grade grade 1 spirit silkworm silk wasn't worth a few spirit stones. High-grade spirit mulberries were also not easy to find. If spirit mulberries weren't good enough, even the best spirit silkworms couldn't produce good silk. The Wang clan had the Jade Dragon Spring, and their ancestors had thought of developing the mulberry silkworm industry. Unfortunately, the Wang clan had been oppressed by the Liang clan in the past, and it was very difficult for them to make ends meet. They didn't have the financial resources to find valuable spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries. Now that the clan's external environment was much better, they already had the right time and place to plant mulberries and raise silkworms. This time they had high-grade grade 1 spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries that could grow to low-grade grade 2 spirit mulberries. It could be said that they had gathered at the right time, place and people. Wang Xian asked in shock again, "You only went out for a few days and you found so many good things? Also, what grade are these spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries?" He was so shocked that he forgot to use his divine sense to investigate the cocoons and spirit mulberries. Wang Daoyuan replied with a smile, "I can't detect this cocoon with my divine sense, so I speculate that it's a spirit-forbidding silkworm. This spirit mulberry's mother stalk is low-grade grade 2 and is more than 30 meters tall. I don't have the ability to move it, so I can only dig up a few small stalks and bring them back." Hearing his words, Wang Xian's eyes lit up. He originally thought that it would be good if these spirit mulberries and spirit silkworms could be mid-grade grade 1. There was a high-grade grade 3 spirit vein in the Jade Spring Peak, so they might be able to advance to high-grade grade 1 in the future. Ordinary high-grade grade 1 spirit silkworm silk could be sold for 20 to 30 spirit stones per kilogram. After a few decades of development, the scale would increase, and it could be a pillar of the clan's industry. However, he didn't expect the spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries to be of such high grade. The grade of the spirit mulberry's mother stalk had a great impact on the upper limit of the child stalk's growth. These spirit mulberries, if planted in a place with abundant spirit chi, would grow to low-grade grade 2 spirit wood without a problem. He scanned with his divine sense and couldn't find any cocoons. These were indeed spirit-forbidding silkworms. 1 kilogram of silk could be sold for more than 200 spirit stones. In the future, when the silkworm industry developed and expanded, it could support the expenses of a large golden core clan. Of course, this would take a long time. Without a few decades of development, it wouldn't be able to reach a climax. If the state of Zhao could be stabilized for another 1 or 200 years, it wouldn't be difficult for the Wang clan to restore the prosperity it had when the ancestor was alive. Wang Xian said with a trembling voice, "Dao Yuan, I really don't know how to reward you this time. After I finish dealing with the matters of the Green Willow province, I'll return to the mountain and discuss with the elders before making a decision. Shui, take the purple gold grass, spirit mulberries and spirit silkworms and immediately return to the Jade Spring Peak. To be safe, Leave a spirit mulberry for cocoons and 2 stalks of purple gold grass in this cave residence. Chapter 92. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Fifth uncle, don't be anxious. There are still some things." With that he took out a storage bag. There were more than 100 mid-grade spirit stones and more than 30 high-grade Tier 1 magic artifacts. He left all the spirit talismans and pills. After all, he would often enter the heaven/mountain range in the future. He needed to prepare more resources just in case. As for these Tier 1 magic artifacts, they were all used by Zhao Baogua to fool the rogue cultivators of Green Willow Province. The quality was not good. A high-grade Tier 1 magic artifact sword was not even as good as the Profound Yang sword. He really did not fancy it, so he did not keep it. Wang Xian opened the storage bag and was shocked. He asked, "Daoyuan, where did you get so many good things?" Although the previous purple gold grass and spirit forbidding silkworm were worth more than 10,000 spirit stones, they still needed dozens or even hundreds of years to develop. As for these 100 over mid-grade spirit stones, they would be able to solve this urgent problem. With these spirit stones, it would be easy to bid for a foundation establishment pill. I went around the outer border of the heaven/mountain range. When I came out, I met Zhao Baogua and robbed him. Wang Daoyuan said indifferently. His 12th uncle Wang Shui laughed and said, "You are indeed my nephew. We have done the same thing. 10 years ago, when I just reached the peak of qi refinement, I met him when I was traveling. This old guy wanted to kill me and steal my treasures. I lured him into the river and beat him up. In the end, he handed over his storage bag and begged me to spare his life. I thought that he should have some life-saving methods, but it was useless. Killing him was not easy, so I took the opportunity to take the storage bag and let him go. I didn't expect that 10 years later he still did not improve and was robbed by you." As soon as Wang Daoyuan heard this, he was immediately enraged. "I was wondering why this old fellow was so desperate to rob me. I used the cloud escape to escape to Xianxia, but he chased me for 200 to 300 miles. He would rather die than let me go. Turns out he has a grudge against you. 12th uncle, you really made me suffer. If not for the jade pendant that Ancestor Yang gave me, I would have fallen into his hands. Later, I lured him into a python's cave and killed him with a sneak attack." "What?" Wang Shui asked in surprise. "You killed him?" "Back then, if it weren't for the fact that my water dragon technique was greatly enhanced in water, I wouldn't have been a match for him. Yet you were able to kill him. With your strength, you can be considered a first-rate expert below foundation establishment." Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, "12th uncle, it's not like you don't know that I'm good at scheming against people." Zhao Baogua was eager for revenge, so I took advantage of the opportunity. He should have bought a large amount of resources from Clear Glass City and sold them at Green Willow Island. They all fell into my hands. I have a use for spirit pills and spirit talismans, and the family shop doesn't lack them. None of the magic tools are suitable for me, and it just so happens that my clansmen are also lacking magic tools. I'll use them all to exchange for contribution points." Wang Daoyuan also took out 2 jasper watermelons and said, "Take these back and let grandfather have a taste." Although jasper watermelons consume a lot of soil energy, with Jade Dragon Spring our family can still grow some. Our family's drunken Immortal restaurant's dishes are too monotonous, so adding a few melons and fruits would be pretty good. Wang Xian nodded and said, "Daoyuan's words are reasonable. In the future we can grow some spirit fruits on Jade Spring Peak. Shui, take these things back to Jade Spring Peak. You must be careful." Wang Shui took the things and left the spiritual spring cave, returning to Jade Spring Peak along the way he came. 3 days later, the Great Elder sent news that Wang Shui and his things had arrived at Jade Spring Peak without any surprises or dangers along the way. This time, Wang Daoyuan didn't find any trouble in the vicinity of the meeting place. There were still more than 10 days before the meeting time, so he wasn't in a hurry to investigate again. For the next few days he stayed in the spiritual spring cave and cultivated. After Wang Shui sent the things back to Jade Spring Peak, he once again went to the spiritual spring cave. Wang Xian was now preparing for his succession. Discussing business with other powers was a big matter, so it was better for the successor to follow along and gain some experience. Of course, the premise was that safety was guaranteed. Before the meeting, Wang Daoyuan went out again to investigate the vicinity of the meeting place. However, he still didn't find any problems. It seemed that the Oasis side was sincere in cooperating with the Wang family and didn't have any intention of causing trouble. On the day of the meeting, Wang Daoyuan arrived at the meeting place early and investigated the surroundings again. Everything was still normal. In the process of investigation, he also met Qin Liang. As the liaison of the Oasis side, it was reasonable for him to come to the meeting. Seeing Wang Daoyuan, he enthusiastically asked, "Daoyu, we meet again. I wonder if your clan's patriarch has arrived." Wang Daoyuan also politely cupped his hands and said, "Qin Daoyu, my clan's patriarch will arrive soon. I wonder if you have any arrangements? My master will also be here soon." Qin Liang replied, "I'll inform Daoyu in advance that this negotiation is the intention of all the Foundation Establishment cultivators of the Oasis. So all the Foundation Establishment seniors have sent their juniors. These people are all Qi disciple cultivators. My master is the only Foundation Establishment cultivator. I didn't inform him in advance, so I hope Wang Daoyuan won't take offense." The clan's patriarch had already expected this situation. The Oasis side was jointly established by many Foundation Establishment cultivators. How could they leave all the negotiation matters to one person? In order to prevent Qin Liang's master from reaching some secret agreement with the Wang family and harming the interests of the other Foundation Establishment cultivators, the other Foundation Establishment cultivators would definitely send people to monitor. Only a few Qi disciple cultivators came. It wouldn't be a big deal. Wang Daoyuan smiled. "It's fine. It's only right for the other seniors to send people." After a quarter of an hour, Wang Xian brought Wang Shui and the people of the Oasis side to the meeting place. The Foundation Establishment cultivator of the Oasis side cupped his hands and said, "Qin Zicheng of the Oasis side greets Daoyu." The others also cupped their hands and called him Senior Wang. Wang Xian also returned the greeting. Wang family's Wang Xian greets Daoyu Chen. Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan also cupped their hands and said, "Greetings Senior Chen and Daoyu." Both sides greeted each other warmly and introduced each other's juniors. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Qin Zicheng mainly introduced a Qi disciple level 8 youth. This person was called Xianxia. He was the eldest son of the strongest cultivator of the Oasis side, Shi Zhenbang. He looked to be in his 20s. Shi Zhenbang was a Foundation Establishment peak cultivator and could break through to the Purple Palace realm at any time. He had the highest authority in the Oasis side. Xianxia also had a face full of arrogance. He cupped his hands and said to the three people of the Wang family, "Xianxia of the Shi family of River Yang greets Marquis Yuquan and the two Daoyu." River Yang referred to the River Yang County west of Qingli County. The ancestor of the Shi family of River Yang was the founding minister of the state of Zhou and was conferred the title of River Yang County Duke. As an old noble, marriage with the royal family was unavoidable. When the three major sects rebelled, the Shi family was the focus of the attack. Almost all of their clansmen were killed. Only a few escaped into the sky/mountain range. Marquis Yuquan was the title of the ancestor of the Wang family, Wang Qingzu. Logically speaking, if the state of Zhou was still ruled by the Zhou family, then Wang Xian, as the head of the Wang family, should inherit the title of Marquis Yuquan. However, the state of Zhou had been dead for more than 300 years now. The Wang family had also become a subordinate family of the Netherworld sect. Using the title of the previous dynasty to call Wang Xian was a bit of blaming the Wang family for betraying the emperor and joining the enemy. Once this was said, everyone's expression changed. They were here to discuss business, not to criticize. How could they expose someone's shortcomings when discussing business? Wang Xian silently glanced at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately understood the meaning of the clan head. At this time he could only stand up for himself. The clan head was a Foundation Establishment cultivator, so it was too degrading. The 12th uncle, Wang Shui, was much older than Xianxia and had a higher cultivation. Him speaking up was a bit of bullying. Chapter 93. Wang Daoyuan was all smiles as he cupped his hands towards Xianxia. This Shi Daoyu from Green Willow State is indeed a talent. Wang Daoyuan from Jade Spring Wang family greets Shi Daoyu. Those who could come to the meeting were not to be trifled with. How could they not understand the meaning behind Wang Daoyuan's words? Xianxia claimed to be from River Sun's Shi family, but why are you in Green Willow State now? The Wang family's ancestor is Jade Spring Marquis, and Jade Spring Peak is still in the hands of the Wang family. Wang Daoyuan claimed to be from the Jade Spring Wang family, so he was very confident. You can't even keep your fiefdom and are holed up in the sky/mountain range. You don't even dare to enter Zhao's territory, yet you still have the face to mention River Sun's Shi family. Shi Xinghua came to the meeting because he was valued by his elders. Such a person might not be amazing, but in terms of talent and intelligence he was at least above average. He naturally understood the meaning behind Wang Daoyuan's words. However, he was choked by Wang Daoyuan's words and didn't know what to say. His face turned red. The situation was a little awkward. Qin Zicheng tried to smooth things over. This little friend of the Wang family is also a young talent, reaching Qi disciple level 7 at such a young age. He then said to the young people around him, "You should also ask for advice from little friend Wang." Everyone agreed and pretended that they didn't understand the meaning behind the two's words. The two were just greeting each other. If no one understood the meaning behind the words, then it didn't exist. The atmosphere of the meeting became harmonious again. Only Shi Xinghua's expression was a little unnatural. Qin Zicheng resolved the awkward situation and didn't give the young people a chance to speak. He didn't want anyone to speak and ruin the business. The business this time was to go to Green Willow State to beg the Wang family. The Wang family's things could be sold anywhere. They didn't lack Green Willow State. If the business was ruined, the Wang family wouldn't lose much, but Green Willow State would lose a supply channel. Wang Daoyuan took out a large pile of things from his storage bag. A long table, more than 10 chairs, a large teapot, more than 10 teacups, and more than 10 fruit plates. Under a towering tree nearby, tables and chairs were set up and everyone was invited to take a seat. The three from the Wang clan sat on one side while the people from the Green Willow continent sat on the other. He took out some commonly seen tea leaves from the market and put them into the teapot. He poured in some spirit spring water and boiled it with a fire attribute spirit talisman. Then he poured everyone a cup. He then took out the last ripe jasper watermelon and cut it into a dozen pieces. Everyone had a piece of watermelon in front of them. This operation made everyone curious. They were here to discuss business, but why did it seem like they were opening a tea house? In the Immortal cultivation world, it was relatively simple to discuss matters. Just like when Wang Daoyuan was selling spiritual honey, it was a small dark room where two people could talk. Even in the wilderness they would talk while standing. How could there be tables and chairs with tea and fruits? After a series of operations, everyone took their seats. Qin Zicheng said, "Daoyu Wang, I previously asked Qin Liang to convey our sincerity. We will buy the pills, spirit talismans, spirit grains, and other items from the Wang family at 20% market price. Whether you want to use spirit stones or spirit items from the Sky Beheading Mountain range, you can settle the bill. As for the supply volume, I dare to boast that we will buy as much as the Wang family has." This condition was already very generous. After the previous wave of rush sales, the market in Clear Glass City was already saturated in a short time. In addition, all the factions were in a hurry to sell their spirit items to prepare for the auction of the Foundation Establishment Pill, so business was not good. Green Willow State might have seen this situation and proposed cooperation at this time. The Wang family also sincerely wanted to do this business, so they naturally had no objections to this price. Moreover, Green Willow State could buy as many resources as they wanted, so the Wang family's goods would not be overstocked. Wang Xian replied, "My Wang family has no objections to this price. Since you can buy as many resources as you want, then there is nothing to talk about. Now let's discuss how to trade. My Wang family is not interested in how Dao Yu from Green Willow State will distribute the goods. We only care about the money and the goods. How you get the goods is your business. My Wang family's property closest to Green Willow State is Mirror Iron Mountain. What I mean is that the trade will take place at Mirror Iron Mountain. You can send people to pretend to be ordinary loose cultivators and enter Mirror Iron Mountain. It will not be too conspicuous. As long as you send people to pay, we will give you the goods. Once the people and the goods leave Mirror Iron Mountain, my Wang family will not care. What does Dao Yu think?" Qin Zicheng muttered to himself and said, "I don't have any objections, but the people who come to take the goods need to have proof." Saying this, he took out a jade pendant. Exerting force in his hand, the jade pendant was split into two halves. The gap was uneven. He handed half of the jade pendant to Wang Xian and took the other half. He said, "We will use this jade pendant as proof. The people who come to take the goods will take this half of the jade pendant, and the people who deliver the goods will also take the other half of the jade pendant. During the trade we will verify whether the two halves of the jade pendant fit together. We only recognize the jade and not the person." Wang Zhihe nodded and said, "Let's do it this way." Afterwards, the two foundation establishment cultivators discussed the details of their cooperation. The others only needed to listen. Since he was bored and had no opportunity to interrupt, Wang Daoyuan picked up his teacup and drank a mouthful of tea. He also ate a piece of watermelon in front of him. Seeing him directly eat and drink, the youths from Green Willow State no longer held back. They all became melon-eating spectators, eating while listening to the contents of the two foundation establishment seniors' discussion. After 2 hours, Wang Daoyuan had to refill their tea several times before the two foundation establishment cultivators finally finished discussing all the details. Henceforth, the business cooperation between the two sides was smoothly concluded. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two sides could return to their respective residences. As for Xianxia, he might have been displeased by Wang Daoyuan's words. Before the business was concluded, he did not dare to act rashly for fear of ruining the business. Now that the cooperation had been reached, the two foundation establishment cultivators would not fall out with each other even if there were some conflicts. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan and said, "Previously, Uncle Chen told us to ask for guidance from Wang Daoyu. As cultivators, we naturally make friends through martial arts. I wonder if Wang Daoyu would be willing to exchange a few moves with us?" Wang Daoyuan glanced at the clan leader from the corner of his eyes, asking for his opinion. The clan leader nodded slightly, indicating that he was willing to fight. Wang Xian knew in his heart that with Wang Daoyuan's strength, no one below the foundation establishment stage could kill him. He always knew when to stop and would not hurt Xianxia. Wang Daoyuan stepped forward and cupped his hands, saying, "Since Brother Shi is in the mood, I will naturally accompany you." Qin Zicheng saw that the Wang family had agreed and did not make the situation very awkward, so he was relieved. He was also not worried about what could happen in the fight between the two juniors. With two foundation establishment cultivators watching from the side, it was impossible for a qi condensation cultivator to injure someone in their hands. After the victor was decided, he would stop it in time. Wang Daoyuan took out his profound yang sword and saluted, saying, "Brother Shi, please." Xianxia also took out a first-grade high-grade fiery red sword and returned the salute, saying, "Daoyu Wang, please." The two of them attacked at the same time. Wang Daoyuan was a few years younger than Xianxia. His physical strength was not as good as Xianxia's, and his cultivation was one level lower. Coupled with the lower grade of his magic weapon, he was at a disadvantage in the first exchange. However, Wang Daoyuan had practiced martial arts for 20 to 30 years in his previous life. In this life he was tortured by the 12th uncle for a few months and experienced several life and death battles. His martial arts were still very solid. Although he was suppressed, it was impossible for Xianxia to win quickly. Chapter 94. The two of them were sparring. They did not even use any offensive spells. They only focused their spiritual energy on the sword in their hands. Xianxia looked for Wang Daoyuan to spar just to save his face. He also knew the severity of the situation. If he injured Wang Daoyuan and ruined the business, then he would offend everyone in the Green Willow province, including the foundation establishment stage cultivators. Therefore, although his offensive was very fierce, every move avoided Wang Daoyuan's vital points. He only wanted to win, not to injure him. After a few moves, Wang Daoyuan found that Xianxia was not ruthless. He naturally knew what he was thinking. Anyway, he was young, his cultivation was low, even his magic tool was not as good as his opponent. There was no shame in losing. He only defended and did not attack, retreating step by step. The two of them exchanged more than 30 moves. Xianxia stopped, said, "Wang Daoyu is really good. I can't win in martial arts. How about we compete in spells?" Wang Daoyuan laughed. "Thank you, Brother Shi, for letting me win. Brother Shi already has the upper hand. If we continue to fight, I can at most hold on for a few more minutes. Brother Shi will win." Seeing him so polite, Xianxia felt a lot more comfortable, said, "Martial arts are only the fighting methods of mortals. I am a cultivator. Naturally spells are the main. Let's compare spells again." Wang Daoyuan saw that he insisted again and again. It was not good to refuse, he could only agree to compete in spells. The two of them were 3 feet apart. Xianxia's hands condensed a fiery red spiritual energy. Then, it turned into a fire python more than 10 feet long. The two of them were very close. Wang Daoyuan did not have time to use the water dragon technique, he could only use the smoke escape, condensing a cloud of mist and instantly escaped. The fire python pounced on empty air, it turned around and pounced at Wang Daoyuan again. At this time Wang Daoyuan was free, he condensed a 3 feet long water dragon, entangling with the fire python. Although the fire python was more powerful, it was restrained by the water dragon. In addition to the extraordinary water dragon technique of the Wang family, although it had the upper hand, it could not defeat the water dragon. The fire element's explosive power was strong, but it could not be sustained. Although the water element was not very strong in terms of offense and defense, it was not afraid of anyone when it came to attrition. What's more, the two of them were fighting on the banks of a clear stream. The water's spiritual energy here was extremely rich, and Wang Daoyuan's consumption of spiritual energy was much lower. If the stalemate continued, Xianxia would definitely be the first to give up. The water dragon and the fire python were in a deadlock for half an hour. Wang Daoyuan was still at ease, but Xianxia was already struggling. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, this Xianxia is a person who understands the big picture. It's just that he's young and impetuous. After being ridiculed by me a few times, he couldn't take it, so he wanted to exchange pointers with me. If I defeat him in public, then we will become enemies. It was better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. The two families were about to cooperate, and offending the son of the Green Willow Continent's great leader was not a wise move. Thinking of this, Wang Daoyuan injected a large amount of water spiritual qi into the water dragon, causing it to explode and dissipate together with the fire python. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, Brother Shi's magic is brilliant. If not for this clear stream, I would have been defeated long ago. His words were not entirely modest. If it was elsewhere, without using his trump card and talisman, he really would not be able to beat Xianxia. Wang Daoyuan had given in twice, and Xianxia was not someone who did not know what was good for him. At this time his anger had already dissipated. He cupped his hands and said, the Wang family's water dragon technique is indeed worthy of its reputation. Brother Wang's water dragon technique is not yet proficient, but it already has such power. If you train for a while more, I'm afraid I won't be your opponent. The two of them gave in to each other and did not fight. Instead they became friends after fighting. Everyone present was relieved. After the business was settled, they did not stay any longer and left the meeting place. Wang Daoyuan picked up the table and cutlery and followed the clan leader back to Mirror Iron Mountain. The three of them returned to Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Xian gave Wang Shoujiang the jade pendant as proof and said, Shoujiang, the family and Green Willow Province have reached a business agreement. In the future, the family and Green Willow Province will trade at Mirror Iron Mountain. This is an important source of income for the family. You have to take care of this. Wang Shoujiang said with some difficulty, Fifth uncle, you know me. I'm good at fighting, but I'm not good at business. I don't have the confidence to do this well. Wang Xian smiled and said, You've always been overseeing Mirror Iron Mountain. If I suddenly transfer you away, I'm afraid it'll attract the Liang family's attention. Don't worry, I'll transfer your 10th uncle over to help. He's been doing business all his life. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask him. Afterward, the three of them left Mirror Iron Mountain and took Wang Daoxing with them. Wang Daoxing had been staying at Mirror Iron Mountain all this time. When he had nothing to do, he would harm the monsters and wild beasts nearby. Now that they were doing business with Green Willow Province, they needed to keep it a secret. It was not appropriate to leave a wooden club here. The four of them returned to Jade Spring Peak by land. Wang Daoyuan found an excuse to leave midway and returned to the Spirit Spring Cave. He had nothing to do back at the family, so it was better to cultivate in the Spirit Spring Cave. He had always been envious of Qi Yun's experience in array formations. He wanted to refine him into a clone, but he was afraid that his soul would be too strong and hurt him. Last time he had used the soul extinguishing bell to deal with Zhao Baogua and destroyed his soul's resistance. He could use this move on Qi Yun. He returned to the Spirit Spring Cave and took Qi Yun out of the Spirit Beast bag. Qi Yun's head was stuck with the soul-subduing talisman and was still unconscious. Wang Daoyuan did not waste any time and directly activated the soul-extinguishing bell. Other than spirit plants, there were only pseudo-spirit fish and spirit-forbidding silkworms in the cave. The pseudo-spirit fish were in the water, and the spirit-forbidding silkworms had the protection of their cocoons. They were not afraid of the bell. Only Qiyun was unlucky. After activating the soul-extinguishing bell once, Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry to deal with Qiyun. He was worried that his injuries were too light and his soul still had the ability to resist. He first formed the soul-splitting blade and cut out a split soul to nourish it for a few days. For the next few days he used the soul-extinguishing bell on Qiyun once a day. 5 days later Wang Daoyuan had already finished nourishing his soul. The injuries of the split soul had also basically recovered. After being ravaged for 5 days, Qiyun could only gasp for breath. If this continued he would be completely finished soon. Wang Daoyuan formed the soul-splitting blade and broke through Qiyun's sea of consciousness. Qiyun's soul was already extremely weak. He could barely maintain his human form. He was muddle-headed and did not move at all. He controlled the soul-splitting blade and lightly tapped on Qiyun's soul. The soul immediately dissipated. The soul-splitting blade immediately dispersed into pure divine sense power, condensing the dissipated soul back together. Wang Daoyuan sent the split soul into Qiyun's sea of consciousness and merged with the soul that was reforming. After doing all this he sent the third clone, Qiyun, into the spirit pearl space to recuperate. The matter of prying into memories and cultivating array formations was left to Qiyun. When he succeeded in his cultivation he could replace the split soul and study array formations himself. The flow of time in the spirit pearl space was 20 times faster. Qiyun could quickly recover and study array formations. Liang Zixing's main spiritual root was a fire spiritual root. He could learn alchemy and weapon forging. Wang Daoyuan asked for the basic knowledge of alchemy from his seventh uncle Wang Shohong. He could let Liang Zixing learn it. The fiery sun wood had already multiplied over 100 trees. However, it had not reached the point where it could be used to burn charcoal. There was still insufficient spiritual charcoal. Previously, Wang Daoyuan had only planted one of the old branches of the spiritual mulberry tree in the space. The rest could be used to burn charcoal. However, it was a second-tier low-grade spiritual wood. Even the branches were first-tier high-grade spiritual materials. It would be a waste to use it directly to burn charcoal. Moreover, if a beginner used such good spiritual charcoal, the firepower would be too strong. It would not be good for controlling the fire. It was better to let the clone learn the basic knowledge first. There was no need to start immediately. Chapter 95. Wang Daoyuan was preparing to switch to the 5 elements primordial art. The 5 elements cultivation technique of a golden core cultivator beckoned to him. If not for the patriarch he would have started to switch long ago. Before starting he carefully comprehended the cultivation technique. The 5 elements primordial art was based on common basic cultivation techniques, plus the conversion of the 5 elements spirit energy and nourishment of the body. The 5 viscera of the human body corresponded to the 5 elements. The heart was fire, the liver was wood, the lungs were metal, the kidney was water, and the spleen was earth. The 5 elements primordial art cultivated the 5 elements spirit energy and used spirit energy to nourish the corresponding viscera, strengthening the body. Therefore, this cultivation technique had a certain body tempering effect and was considered a relatively advanced body tempering technique. Ordinary body tempering techniques only strengthened the body and ignored the viscera. If the human body was compared to a tree, the connate chi and viscera were the roots and trunk, and the muscles and bones were the branches and leaves. Regardless of whether the roots and trunk were dead or alive, only the branches and leaves were strengthened. A gust of wind could blow the tree down. The 5 elements primordial art strengthened the roots. When the roots and trunk were strong, the branches and leaves would naturally be luxuriant. Only when the roots were deeply rooted could the tree resist the wind. In the early stages, the 5 elements primordial art's body tempering effect was not significant. It only made the body stronger and had more chi and blood. The strength of the body could not be compared to those body tempering techniques that tempered the muscles and bones. But in the long run, ordinary body tempering techniques overdraft the body's potential, while the 5 elements primordial art strengthened the body in all aspects. However, the speed at which the body and cultivation improved together was simply too slow. Wang Daoyuan had unlimited resources, but it would take him 10 to 20 years to reach the greater mastery realm, unless he was lucky enough to obtain a high-level spirit item. It was conceivable that ordinary cultivators could not even be satisfied with spirit grains for every meal. How much time would it take to cultivate this damn cultivation technique? However, with the space in the spirit pearl, he did not lack resources and did not have to worry about others. If he could cultivate to the greater mastery realm in more than 10 years, he would only be in his 30s. Even in a large sect, a peak chi refinement realm cultivator in his 30s could be considered an upper-class level. After understanding the 5 elements primordial art, Wang Daoyuan officially began to cultivate. Because the primordial 5 elements technique could change the attributes of the 5 elements, he did not need to cultivate it from scratch. All he needed to do was to circulate his cultivation technique and convert the water spiritual energy in his dantian into the 5 elements. Then he condensed the 5 elements spiritual energy into true essence and merged it into his blood to form blood essence, which nourished his 5 internal organs and strengthened his entire body. Wang Daoyuan cultivated for a few hours every day and spent the rest of his time refining talismans and cultivating the soul-chasing whip technique. 5 elements Taoist's whip technique was not entirely for close combat. Instead, it was based on the sword techniques of sword cultivators. After he reached foundation establishment, he could use the soul-chasing whip technique. Every lash of the whip would create a gust of wind, just like the sword chi of a sword cultivator. It was a long-range attack. Although the whip itself was not suitable for the sword manipulation technique and could not fly on the whip, its power and attack range were not inferior to the sword manipulation technique. The ultimate move of this whip technique was called the soul hunting whip. It could unleash 5 types of spiritual energy with a single whip, and its power could crush most Tier 2 spells. Zhao Baoguo's 5 consecutive whips could be said to be a shortcut. He could not unleash all 5 elements at once, but only one type of spiritual energy. Although it was far from the full power of this move, it was still not difficult to beat up cultivators of the same level. If he did not rely on the soul-extinguishing bell, it was very likely that he would have fallen into the hands of Zhao Baoguo. After cultivating in the Spirit Spring Cave for more than 2 months, Wang Daoyuan converted the spiritual energy in his body into the 5 elements spiritual energy. His 5 internal organs, meridians and dantian were all nurtured. Although there was no change in his cultivation, his overall strength had undergone an earth-shaking change. The total amount of spiritual energy in his dantian was twice as much as before. His physical strength had also greatly increased. The strength of his meridians and internal organs had increased a lot. In addition, the soul-chasing whip technique could be considered a small achievement. Now he could face Zhang Disheng head-on. After cultivating the 5 elements primordial technique, he finally understood why Zhao Baoguo was so difficult to deal with. Firstly, the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip saved spiritual energy. Secondly, the 5 elements primordial technique's spiritual energy was abundant. Thirdly, the 5 elements primordial technique had a great advantage: fast recovery. Just in terms of recovery speed, a penta-spirit root cultivator who cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique might surpass a heavenly spirit root cultivator. The 5 elements primordial technique also recorded the reason for the fast recovery. Because the 5 elements engendered each other, the attribute of spiritual energy was constantly changing. Finally, it reached a state of balance between the 5 elements. This state would form non-elemental spiritual energy. Unless it was near a single attribute spirit vein like the Jade Dragon Spring, there would be more water spiritual energy than non-elemental spiritual energy. In places far away from such spirit veins, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was basically non-elemental. Take a cultivator who cultivated a water elemental technique as an example. When a cultivator absorbed non-elemental spiritual energy into his body, he needed to use the technique to break down the non-elemental spiritual energy into the 5 elemental spiritual energy. Then he would use his own water spirit root to refine the water elemental spiritual energy into his own spiritual energy. When the water elemental spiritual energy was refined, it would become less and break the balance of the 5 elements. The other elemental spiritual energy would be transformed into water elemental spiritual energy through the mutual engendering of the 5 elements. In the end, all the spiritual energy would be transformed into water elemental spiritual energy and refined into the cultivator's own spiritual energy. As for the other elemental spiritual energy, It would take time to transform into water elemental spiritual energy. If one could only transform 1 unit of water elemental spiritual energy in a breath's time, no matter how fast the water elemental spiritual energy was refined, only 1 unit of water elemental spiritual energy could be refined into spiritual energy. This was called the spiritual energy transformation bottleneck by Immortal cultivators. This bottleneck was unavoidable even for those with heavenly spirit roots. As for penta-spirit root cultivators who cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique, they could directly ignore the bottleneck of spiritual energy transformation. They could break down non-elemental spiritual energy into 5 elemental spiritual energy and refine the 5 elemental spiritual energy at the same time. When recovering their spiritual energy, there was no need to change the spiritual energy's attribute. If one cultivated a water elemental technique, one could cultivate in a water elemental spirit vein or spirit eye without worrying about this bottleneck. However, one could not avoid this bottleneck when traveling outside or facing enemies unless they consumed water elemental spiritual objects all day long. This also reflected the usefulness of cultivation resources. With the support of a large number of water elemental spiritual objects, one's cultivation speed would not be affected by this bottleneck. As long as there was sufficient spiritual energy, penta-spirit root cultivators could always maintain the fastest refining speed. On the other hand, heavenly spirit root cultivators could not achieve the fastest refining speed. Therefore, in a place where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was mostly non-elemental, without the assistance of spiritual objects, the recovery speed of penta-spirit root cultivators could theoretically reach 10 times that of heavenly spirit root cultivators. Of course, this was only the recovery speed. In terms of cultivation speed, heavenly spirit root cultivators were far superior to other cultivators. Cultivation speed was not only about absorbing spiritual energy and transforming it into spiritual energy, but also condensing spiritual energy into quintessential essence. A cultivator's cultivation speed was the process of increasing the quality and quantity of quintessential essence. The process of condensing spiritual energy into quintessential essence mainly depended on one's spiritual root aptitude. Heavenly spirit root cultivators could only cultivate spiritual energy of one attribute, which was extremely pure. As for multi-spirit root cultivators, even if they cultivated single elemental techniques, during the cultivation process, their spiritual roots of other attributes would also refine a small amount of spiritual energy into spiritual energy, resulting in a heterogeneous spiritual energy. The purer the spiritual energy, the higher the quality of the condensed quintessential essence, and the faster the condensing speed. The height of the spiritual root directly determined the speed at which the spiritual energy condensed quintessential essence. The higher the spiritual root, the faster the condensing speed. Heavenly spirit root cultivators only had one spiritual root, and their spiritual energy was extremely pure. Furthermore, the spiritual root's shadow was longer than 9 inches, and the condensing speed was faster. These were the 2 advantages. This was the reason why heavenly spirit root cultivators were far superior to other cultivators. Wang Daoyuan, a penta-spirit root cultivator, recovered spiritual energy the fastest, but condensed quintessential essence the slowest. Chapter 96. When a cultivator broke through to the next realm, the quality of their true essence would increase, which would then lead to improvements in all aspects of their body. Cultivators with heavenly spirit roots had a higher quality of true essence than cultivators of the same realm, so it was easier for them to break through. Cultivators with penta-spirit roots had the lowest quality of true essence, so it was the hardest for them to break through. Increasing one's cultivation in the same realm meant increasing the quantity of true essence. This depended on the speed of condensing true essence. Spirit medicines such as spirit-gathering pills could increase the speed of condensing true essence. Therefore, spirit-gathering pills had the effect of increasing one's cultivation. Spirit-gathering pills that could assist in breaking through to the next realm could increase the quality of true essence, such as the Foundation Establishment Pill. Cultivators of different cultivation realms had different forms of true essence in their bodies. Qi refining stage cultivators' true essence was all hidden in their blood essence. Foundation establishment stage and Zifu stage cultivators' true essence was mainly in the form of true essence liquid, which existed in the Dantian. Golden core stage cultivators' true essence was the core of the golden core stage, and the outer layer of the golden core stage was compressed spirit qi. Cultivators with qi refining stage and above also had true essence in their blood essence, but compared to the true essence in the dantian, the amount was too little. When cultivators fought, they would usually only use spirit qi. As for powerful forbidden techniques and secret techniques, most of them consumed true essence as the price. Once true essence was used, the power of the technique would increase explosively, but if too much true essence was used, there would be the danger of a drop in cultivation level. If true essence was used up, there was a high possibility that one would die. Even if one did not die, their cultivation level would be completely destroyed and they would have to start cultivating again. Although the 5 elements primordial technique was a relatively advanced technique, it could not solve the problem of penta-spirit roots spirit qi being impure and the slow speed of condensing true essence. If there was a technique that could solve the problem of penta-spirit roots cultivators' spirit qi being impure, then his penta-spirit roots would not be weaker than heavenly spirit roots, and could even become the strongest spirit roots. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to have extravagant hopes of increasing his cultivation level quickly. The 5 elements primordial technique could bring out the penta-spirit roots cultivator's advantage to the extreme, and he was already very satisfied. 2 months was equivalent to more than 3 years in the space of the spirit pearl. The first and second generation fiery sun wood in the space could be chopped. After 3 years of practice, the clone Liang Zixing could already refine spirit gathering pills. Wang Daoyuan would have another source of income. For the past 3 years, the avatar Qi Yun had been researching array formations, but the speed of his progress wasn't ideal. Due to the flaw of the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, the doppelganger improved slowly. However, Qi Yun was a high-grade Tier 2 array master. The clone's sea of consciousness still retained his memories and most of the soul belonged to Qi Yun. Logically speaking, the clone should be able to quickly recover to the level of a high-grade Tier 2 array master. However, after more than 3 years he was still only able to set up middle-grade Tier 1 array formations. Perhaps it was because Qi Yun's soul had been severely injured before, and he had destroyed too many of his soul fragments, causing his soul to be severely damaged. On top of that, he was even refined into a clone, which severely injured him once more. The rate at which he was improving his strength was a pitiful sight. It was unlikely that he would be able to recover his mastery of formations in the future. Wang Daoyuan wasn't in a hurry either. He didn't expect his avatar to come up with any tricks by studying array formations. It was also to help him accumulate experience. When he started researching array formations, it would save him a lot of time. Liang Zixing and Qi Yun both had work to do. Only Zhao Baogua didn't have the talent to cultivate the 100 arts of immortal cultivation. It was the same for his avatar. The management of the spirit plants in the spirit pearls space, the feeding of the spirit fish and other miscellaneous tasks were all left to him. The spirit forbidding silkworms in the space finally moved. According to the time in the space, a year ago the silkworm moth broke out of its cocoon and laid its eggs. Now that the eggs had hatched, Zhao Baogua took on the heavy responsibility of harvesting mulberries and raising silkworms. More than 100 long-eared rabbits had already reproduced. This was the result of the 3 avatars eating long-eared rabbits. Wang Daoyuan had also eaten rabbits for 2 months. In the future he would have to raise a spirit beast that ate rabbits. Otherwise, if he continued to reproduce at this rate, all the spirit items in the space wouldn't be enough to feed the rabbits. In the spirit spring cave abode, more than 2 months had passed. The spirit mulberries and purple gold grass that the patriarch had left behind had already been planted. However, there was still no movement from the silkworm cocoons. Wang Daoyuan's main task was to find a way out for the clan. However, if he stayed in the spirit spring cave abode and cultivated, the way out wouldn't jump out by itself. If he wanted to find a place to accommodate his clansmen and ensure that the enemy forces didn't dare to attack, he could only go to the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range. If he went to the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range, it was tantamount to courting death. It was better to go to the oasis to scout for information first. After all, the people in the oasis had lived in the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range for many years. They were more familiar with the environment than him. In addition, he also had to take over the business channels and connections that Zhao Baogua had left behind. Through prying into his memories, he found that Zhao Baogua still had a shop in the oasis. Zhao Baogua used this shop to sell Dharma artifacts, pills, spirit talismans and various spirit items from rogue cultivators in the oasis. In the clear glass market there were also a few clans that cooperated with him. They provided him with Dharma artifacts, pills, spirit talismans, as well as the spirit items produced in the Heaven Beheading Mountain range. After Wang Daoyuan took over all of this, he could turn the partners in the clear glass market into his own clan. His clan didn't have a smithing business, so he could continue to maintain the Dharma artifact supply channels. He also had an additional channel to buy Dharma artifacts at a low price. It had to be said that Zhao Baoguo was quite black-hearted. The clans in the clear glass market supplied him with 80% of the market price. He sold them at twice the market price in the oasis. This was a net profit of 200%. Humans die for wealth, birds die for food. With such high profits, who wouldn't be tempted? Although the upper echelons of the oasis cooperated with the Wang clan, the Wang clan alone couldn't provide much. To the oasis it was a drop in the bucket. Furthermore, the resources that the upper echelons of the oasis bought at a high price couldn't be easily sold to normal rogue cultivators. Most of them were used to expand their strength. If they wanted to sell, they would sell them at a high price. Therefore, Zhao Baoguo's secret line was still very profitable. Wang Daoyuan wrote down his plan and placed it in the Spirit Spring Cavern's thatched hut along with the Spirit Spring Pearl. Afterwards, he used the Earth Escape Talisman to leave the Spirit Spring Cavern. Afterwards, he used the Cloud Escape to enter the clear stream and then followed the clear stream upstream. Although he had never been to the oasis and had never even heard of the oasis before, but Zhao Baoguo often came here and spent most of the year doing business in the oasis. With Zhao Baoguo's memories, he could be said to be familiar with the oasis. Using the Cloud Escape in the water was much faster than using the spiritual movement technique on land. In 2 hours he could travel a few hundred li. The basin where the oasis was located was less than 1,000 li away from the Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Daoyuan traveled 400 to 500 li upstream of the clear stream and reached the mouth of a tributary that flowed into the clear stream. This tributary was called the Green Willow Stream and was named after the oasis. After entering the Green Willow Stream, the number of monsters began to increase. Along the way he encountered more than 10 waves of aquatic monsters. Fortunately, there were no rank 2 monsters and they were no threat to him. Following the Green Willow Stream upstream for 300 li, he came to a huge basin. In the middle of the basin was a lake. This lake was called the 100 Rivers Lake. It was formed by the convergence of several hundred rivers around the basin. The 100 Rivers Lake was an irregular circle with a diameter of 5,000 li. There were many islands in the lake. The more famous ones were the Deer Cry Island, the Black Turtle Island, the Hidden Cloud Island and the Dragon Island. But the oasis had a low-rank 3 spirit vein that was dozens of li long. This was something that the other islands could not compare to. The oasis slowly expanded and gradually became the core of the 100 Rivers Lake. Many loose cultivators gathered here. In addition, there was a market in the oasis. The outside world only heard of the oasis, but did not know of the 100 Rivers Lake. The oasis was roughly in the center of the 100 Rivers Lake and was 2,000 li away from the shore. There were many aquatic monsters in the 100 Rivers Lake. Rank 2 monsters often appeared. If one rashly entered the water, it was easy to be attacked. Cultivators mainly relied on spirit boats to travel to and from the oasis. Wang Daoyuan took out Zhao Baoguo from the space of the Spirit Pearl. He used a disguise technique and changed his appearance to be similar to Zhao Baoguo. He pretended to be Zhao Baoguo's junior so that he could take over Zhao Baoguo's connections and channels. Chapter 97. The two came to a crowded dock and waited for the spirit ship to go to Green Willow Province. After waiting for a short while, a spirit ship approached. This spirit ship was more than 10 feet long and 3 feet wide. The ship's side was covered with dense array patterns. Wang Daoyuan and Zhao Baoguo each paid 2 spirit stones and boarded the ship. They found that the ship's side and deck were made of high-grade level 1 materials. The keel and the passengers driving the array could not be seen, but the keel was definitely better than the deck. This spirit ship was at least a low-grade level 2 magic tool. It was not comparable to the Wang family's spirit ship. In terms of resistance, it was not on the same level. The Green Willow Province's spirit ship could resist the attack of a low-grade level 2 monster, but the Wang family's spirit ship could be easily destroyed by a high-grade level 1 monster. The quality of a spirit ship could also reflect the safety of the water it was traveling in. The Wang family's spirit ship traveled between Qingxi River and Qingli River. These sections of the river had been cleaned countless times. High-grade level 1 monster was rare. As long as a level 2 monster appeared, there would immediately be people to surround and kill it. The Green Willow Province's spirit ship was so generous that it could only mean one thing. The situation under the 100 River Lake was complicated. It was common for level 2 monster to attack spirit ships. There were many people waiting at the dock for the spirit ship. Soon the ship was full. The spirit ship started and headed to the center of the lake. The ship was also very fast. It was comparable to Wang Daoyuan's speed after using a high-grade level 1 spirit travel talisman. There were many monster beasts in the 100 River Lake. The ship was just a few miles away from the dock when it encountered its first attack. A 60 to 70 foot long fish directly hit the side of the ship. When the rogue cultivators saw this, they did not panic. Instead, they were happy as if it was the new year. A few peak chi refinement rogue cultivators took out their magic tools to fight the fish. This fish was only at the peak of level 1. How could it fight against several cultivators of the same level at the same time? In just a moment it was killed by the rogue cultivators. These rogue cultivators divided the fish's body equally and their faces were full of joy. Rogue cultivators did not have good days. To be able to kill such a big fish, each person's share could be sold for 10 to 20 spirit stones. 4 rogue cultivators, it was not a small income. After 4 hours, Green Willow Island was already in sight. In these 4 hours the spirit ship had encountered 5 or 6 attacks from aquatic monster beasts. But all of them were first-order monster beasts. Before they could even touch the ship, they had already become extra income for the rogue cultivators. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any rank 2 demonic beasts, so they didn't encounter any danger along the way. As the spirit ship approached the oasis, they looked up and saw a large green cloud covering half the sky in the distance. This should be the legendary green willow. The size of the crown of this green willow tree was far greater than that of the pine tree on the Ash Cloud Peak. The ancient pine tree beside the Jade Spring Peak's hidden scripture tower was even more incomparable. The spirit ship slowed down and sailed into the reeds in the shallow waters. Many of the reeds in the reed marsh had already been graded and could be used to make talisman paper. Although Wang Daoyuan didn't lack rank 1 talismans, the fish pond in the spiritual pearl space was still empty, so it was better to plant some reeds. From Zhao Baoguo's memories, he knew that these reeds were ownerless. Using them to make talisman paper, the production process was more complicated, so it wasn't worth it. In addition, these things could be found everywhere in the 100 Rivers Lake, so they couldn't be sold for a high price. Very few rogue cultivators had any ideas about them. Since no one cared about them, Wang Daoyuan picked up a reed flower and observed it in his hand, pretending to be very curious. No rogue cultivator cared about his actions, so he put the reed flower into the spiritual pearls space. The spirit ship twisted and turned in the gaps between the reeds and docked at a small ferry. Everyone on the ship also disembarked. Wang Daoyuan followed behind Zhao Baoguo. After landing, they walked towards the market in the center of Green Willow Island. Green Willow Island was an irregular strip of sand. It was more than 200 li from north to south, 60 to 70 li from east to west, and only 10 to 20 li at its narrowest. The huge willow tree sat in the center of Green Willow Island, and many buildings surrounded the willow tree. This was Green Willow Island's market. The layout of Green Willow Island's market was very particular. 2 roads, one vertical and one horizontal, intersected, dividing the entire market into 4 neat sections. Where the 2 roads intersected, there was a huge circular flower bed, and in the flower bed was the huge willow tree. The willow tree's crown covered the entire market, and the trunk was very thick. 20 to 30 people would find it hard to wrap their arms around it. The tree was almost 100 zhang tall, and its height was comparable to some small mountains. It was said that the willow tree's roots covered the entire Green Willow Island, and it had grown on a low level 3 spirit vein for many years. It was actually a spirit plant that didn't have a grade. Other than the fact that it was made of wood, there was nothing special about it. The area near the willow tree was the most lively place in the entire Green Willow Island. The main reason was that it was large enough, and most rogue cultivators would set up stalls here. The things they sold were all products from the surrounding area, such as spirit herbs, ores, yao beast corpses, and so on. There were very few talismans, pills, and magic tools. Zhao Baoguo's shop was called Zhao's Sundry Goods Shop. It was southeast of the willow tree, close to the edge of the market. The edge of the market was not bad. Because rogue cultivators did business near the willow tree, most of the shops were there. As for the cave dwellings opened by cultivators as well as the inns for rogue cultivators, they were not suitable for noisy places. They were all at the edge of the market. Moreover, Zhao Baoguo's shop sold things that were lacking in Green Willow Island, and bought things that were commonly seen in Green Willow Island. With this kind of business, no matter how remote it was, there would be no shortage of customers. He and Zhao Baoguo came to Zhao's sundry goods shop. Zhao Baoguo took out a token and injected spirit power and spiritual sense into it. The defensive formation around the shop immediately closed. Every shop in Green Willow Island had a defensive formation. Of course, the grade was not high, but these formations were connected to the defensive formation of the entire market. Once the defensive formation was activated, if someone tried to force their way in, they would be attacked by the defensive formation. The spirit chi needed by the defensive formation was provided by Green Willow Island's third-level low-grade spirit vein. Wang Daoyuan and Zhao Baoguo entered the shop. They saw that the shop occupied more than 3 acres, far more than the shops in Clear Glass Market. Perhaps this was the difference between the city center and the suburbs. Green Willow Island had less people and more land. The land was not valuable and the shops occupied a large area. Not long after the two entered the shop, a customer came. The customer was called Gao Yuan. She was not an ordinary customer, but Zhao Baoguo's most important connection in Green Willow Island. Gao Yuan was one of the brokers in Green Willow Island. She was responsible for connecting people to business and collecting intermediary fees. Zhao Baoguo wanted to buy valuable spirit items, and Gao Yuan's help was indispensable. Gao Yuan walked in and saw Wang Daoyuan. She asked Zhao Baoguo, "Who is this little friend?" The main body and avatar were telepathic. Whatever Wang Daoyuan wanted to say, Zhao Baoguo would automatically say it. Zhao Baoguo answered, "He is helping me." Gao Yuan heard this and was a bit angry. "Old Zhao, you are not good enough. I recommended a few people to you but you didn't want them. You said you didn't want to find a helper but now you found one yourself. What? You don't trust me?" Zhao Baoguo answered unhurriedly, "This kid is my family's grandnephew, my brother's grandson. How can the person you found compare to my grandnephew? I have offended many people in these few decades. Who knows when I will die in the hands of my enemies? Although we cultivators are not afraid of death, we still have to leave something to remember. Coincidentally, this grandnephew of mine has spirit roots. I asked my brother to let me adopt him. He's my grandson. When I die in the future there will be someone to pay respects to." Gao Yuan looked at the two's appearance and found that there were indeed some similarities. In addition, the two cultivated the same cultivation technique and had similar auras. She believed Zhao Baoguo's words. She nodded and did not continue to harp on it. Chapter 98. Zhao Baoguo reprimanded Wang Daoyuan. "Why aren't you greeting Senior Gao? Our business is all thanks to Senior Gao's introduction. Learn to be smart, don't be like when you're at home." Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Junior Zhao Yunqing greets Senior Gao." Zhao Yunqing was Wang Daoyuan's pseudonym in Oasis in the future. Gao Yuan hurriedly replied, I dare not. Little friend Zhao's cultivation is also at the late-stage qi refinement realm, not much lower than me. How can I dare to be his senior?" Zhao Baoguo smiled and said, "You and I are as close as brothers. Yunqing is my grandson, so it's only right that he calls you senior. In the past, I spent most of my time in this Zhao clan's sundry goods store purchasing spiritual items. I only went to Clear Glass Market once every half a year. It was too much of a delay. In the future, I'll specialize in purchasing spiritual items from Clear Glass Market and leave the purchasing of spiritual items to Yunqing. He's new here and doesn't have much experience. When I'm not here, you have to take care of him." Gao Yuan thought in his heart that Zhao Baoguo was crafty and not easy to deal with. His grandson was easy to deal with. In the future he could squeeze more profits from this side. Thinking up to here, he naturally agreed and patted his chest to guarantee that he would definitely take good care of Zhao Yunqing. That sincere appearance, those who didn't know would think that he was taking care of his own grandson. Gao Yuan and Zhao Baoguo finished wrangling and asked probingly, "This time you went to Clear Glass Market, you didn't get any fewer good things, right?" Zhao Baoguo sighed and said, "Don't mention it. I met a fat sheep on the way and originally thought that I could make a fortune. I didn't expect to meet a tough stubble and almost lost myself inside. I only came back alive after throwing away a storage pouch. That storage pouch was filled with artifacts. This time there were only medicinal pills and talismans. Furthermore, the artifact business won't be easy in the future. The store that I took the goods from before had a big accident. It's hard to say if they can survive this hurdle. If that clan were to be destroyed just like that, then their magic tool business would probably be cut off in the future. It's not easy to find a business partner. Now my source of income has been cut by a third. Gao Yuan saw that his expression didn't seem to be fake, so she comforted him with a few words. Brother Zhao, you don't have to be like this. It's not a bad thing that you don't have any magic tools. If individual cultivators don't have magic tools, won't they have to consume more talismans and medicinal pills when they go hunting in the mountains? If it was well protected, a magical artifact could be used for a lifetime. If it was not well protected, it could still be used for a few years. Selling Dharma artifacts was a one-off business. If there were no Dharma artifacts, the consumption of talismans and pills would be huge. In this way, one would have to prepare more talismans and pills when searching for spiritual items in the mountains. It was normal to consume more than 10 talismans and a few pills to enter the mountain. This was equivalent to dozens of spirit stones. Even if he didn't sell his artifacts, he might be able to make more profit than selling his artifacts. Brother Zhao, you can also lower the price a little so that I can introduce business to you. Wang Daoyuan said this through Zhao Baoguo's mouth in order to find an excuse for not selling magic tools in the future. He didn't expect this Gao Yuan to be such a genius. She could actually analyze the economic law so thoroughly. She deserved to be called a broker. Her vision was really sharp. Zhao Baoguo pretended to be contemplating. After a long time he said with a smile, Brother Gao is really shrewd. Thinking about it carefully, it's indeed so. So, if I don't do magic tool business in the future, it'll actually be more profitable. Gao Yuan glanced outside the door. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew what she meant. He said to Zhao Baoguo, Yunxing, go close the door. After closing the door, Gao Yuan said, I wonder if Brother Zhao is interested in buying spiritual medicines? Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of excitement in his heart. Seeing Gao Yuan's solemn appearance, this spirit medicine was definitely not simple. Zhao Baoguo showed a curious expression and asked, I wonder what kind of spiritual medicine it is to make Brother Gao so serious? Seeing that Zhao Baoguo's interest was aroused, Gao Yuan no longer kept him in suspense. She replied, Snow Ganoderma. After she finished speaking, she looked at Zhao Baoguo with a look of victory. Snow Ganoderma was generally a second-tier low-grade spiritual medicine. It had been growing for a long time and its grade might be higher. It had the effect of calming the mind and preventing qi deviation. The most important thing was that Snow Ganoderma was a supplementary medicine for Foundation Establishment pills. Foundation Establishment pills had a total of more than 10 supplementary medicines. They were basically second-tier low-grade or first-tier high-grade spiritual medicines. The so-called supplementary medicines were used to supplement the main medicine. They were used to enhance the efficacy of the main medicine or to resolve the side effects of the main medicine. Foundation Establishment pills were valuable because the main medicine was too precious. The value of the supplementary medicines was much lower. Even if the value was far lower than the main medicine, the supplementary medicines could still be worth a few hundred spirit stones. Moreover, if this thing was sold in clear glass market, the price would definitely not be a problem. If it was a living plant or had seeds, people would rush to buy it at 10 times the price. After all, the shops in clear glass market all had clans or sects behind them. For the clans, planting supplementary medicines for Foundation Establishment pills was an extremely cost-effective thing. Foundation Establishment pills had 3 main medicines. They were True Essence Fruit, 500-year-old Blood Jade Ginseng and 200-year-old Dragon Vine. True Essence Fruit was a second-tier high-grade or third-tier low-grade spiritual fruit. Its function was to provide pure spiritual power. As long as this spiritual power was slightly refined, it could become the cultivator's own spiritual power. It was convenient for cultivators to condense true essence. Moreover, true essence fruit could improve the quality of true essence. It was extremely helpful for cultivators to condense true essence into liquid true essence when breaking through to Foundation Establishment. The spiritual power contained in blood jade ginseng was very similar to essence blood. Qi condensation cultivators' true essence was hidden in their essence blood. To condense true essence liquid, they had to extract true essence from their essence blood. This process was extremely dangerous. Once there was not enough essence blood, the cultivator would die of blood exhaustion. The reason why cultivators over 70 years old had a lower success rate was because their qi and blood had begun to decline, and it was easier for them to experience blood exhaustion. The spiritual power contained in blood jade ginseng happened to be able to replenish essence blood, preventing cultivators from dying of blood exhaustion. Blood jade ginseng also had a huge side effect. Its powerful spiritual power replaced essence blood, and cultivators would easily have their qi and blood boil. In serious cases, it would lead to confusion. When one was in a state of confusion during a breakthrough, there was an 80 to 90% chance of qi deviation. The snow Ganoderma could calm the mind and was used to eliminate this side effect of blood jade ginseng. The last main ingredient was dragon vine. It was a highly poisonous medicine. Legend had it that it could poison a flood dragon to death. This was where the name dragon vine came from. Consuming dragon vine alone would cause the meridians and dantian to harden and lose flexibility. After the medicinal effect passed, the meridians would become very brittle. Once the spiritual power was used, the dantian and meridians would explode. When a cultivator reached foundation establishment, the meridians and dantian would absorb a huge amount of spiritual power. The pressure on the meridians and dantian would be great. Once the condensation of true essence failed and the cultivator was unable to control the huge amount of spiritual power, they would directly explode and die. Most cultivators who failed to reach foundation establishment died at this stage. Dragon vine could harden the dantian and meridians, greatly increasing the strength of the inner dantian and meridians in a short period of time. Could also resist the impact of losing control of spiritual power. If a cultivator wanted their meridians to return to normal after the medicinal effect of dragon vine passed, they would need spiritual medicines to protect their meridians. Most of the supplementary medicines for foundation establishment pills were used to protect the meridians and neutralize the dragon vine's toxicity. The dragon vine's value lay in its age. Could not be too old or too old. If it was too old, the toxicity would be too weak and the hardening of the meridians and dantian would not be enough. If it was too old, the toxicity would be too strong, and the supplementary medicines would not be able to neutralize it. Therefore, in order to make its toxicity just right, it had to be harvested around 200 years old and could not be stored for too long. With the effects of these three main ingredients, foundation establishment pills were the best supplementary pills for qi refinement cultivators to reach foundation establishment. They could increase the success rate of reaching foundation establishment by 20%. Even if one failed to reach foundation establishment, the medicinal effect of foundation establishment pills would strengthen the quality of true essence, dantian, and meridians, increasing the success rate of reaching foundation establishment by 50%. The body would also not be severely damaged. Wang Daoyuan had cultivated the 5 elements mixed yuan technique to greater mastery, which could increase the success rate of reaching foundation establishment by 30% at most. He would not be able to withstand taking 5 pills at once. However, his dantian and meridians had been strengthened by cultivation techniques. Taking 3 foundation establishment pills at once was still possible. Taking 3 foundation establishment pills at once could increase the success rate of reaching foundation establishment to more than 90%. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.